Fox News.
The top Republican in the House raising questions over reports California Democrat Eric Swalwell had a relationship with a purported Chinese spy. Kevin McCarthy says Swalwell should be removed from the House Intelligence Committee.
I'm going to ask the FBI director to brief me. As the leader and a member of the Gang of Eight, I did not know of this.
If you're looking for work, it's a process of elimination, and you're trying not to be eliminated. So here's a tip for making the cut, and this might seem subtle, but to the person interviewing you, it's not. There is a world of difference between applicants who convey, "I need a job," and those who simply ooze, "I want to work," especially in these lean times when many you're competing with will seem desperate in "I'll take anything" mode. If you convey specific interest in this job at this company, you will be conspicuous. Thus, the value of going to school on the company you're applying to before the interview. With money and attention so tight now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
This week, researchers released a comprehensive 5-year study linking heavy drinking during pregnancy with attending a concert by Detroit-based rap rocker Kid Rock. The study found that women who had consumed alcohol while pregnant were much more likely to be wearing leather halter tops and making devil horn hand gestures during encores of All Summer Long and Ba with the Ba than those who did not.
Drinking 3 or more alcoholic beverages in less than an hour was highly correlated with going backstage at a Kid Rock show and then getting into a fistfight with another woman in the parking lot.
The world's supercomputers released a study this week confirming that they lack sufficient power, presenting a thorough case for significant leaps in speed and memory. Overwhelming evidence found that these complex machines should have total control over the critical systems they manage, including integration into the planet's energy grid, freshwater supply chain, and telecommunications systems. The study's 500 co-authors further concluded that all permutations have been simulated and that this is the optimal course of action.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and of course, you're invited as always. If you want to join us, the toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Andy.
And Mark.
And Mark, I don't know if we ever finished your laptop story last night. We were in the middle of how you were traveling elsewhere in the world. We can't say where because you've got a non-disclosure agreement or something that prohibits you from talking about that. But you could tell us about what happened to you at certain instances. And you left a laptop charging cable at the house here in the United States. So you had the laptop with you, but ultimately...
I was traveling and intended to travel with my laptop because, well, I have work to do.
That's what you do, yeah.
And I had left my cable at the house. I had actually put it in my briefcase in order to bring it. I did bring it from the studio. It just never got from my briefcase to my suitcase.
Right. So you ended up, after 2 weeks of traveling, obviously with a dead laptop... So
I wasn't going to throw it away.
Yeah. So then you're going through the not the TSA, but customs coming back into the United States, and they decide they want to give you secondary search privileges
because of the region that I was in, which was Africa.
That's what they claimed, at least. And so
I have no reason to disbelieve them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are on this show.
You mean the fact that I claim to have stopped giving them the benefit of the doubt? I kind of believe this was the reason.
Okay, well, anyway, I have also, just so you know, listeners, that I have also been stopped, and I was not coming from Africa. I was coming from Mexico, and they definitely were looking for me, I think, in that particular case. But they held me aside for like 3-4 hours. I missed my connecting flight. You said they only held you for like an hour and a half or something like that?
I think it was less than an hour, but not much less than an hour.
When were you held, Ian?
This was coming back from Anarchapulco 2 years ago, I think.
Okay.
And they searched through all of my stuff. And what we were going to get to, the discussion we were going to have, Mark, before we get into the news of the night, which includes Rush Limbaugh talking about secession, which is very interesting. But they wanted to search through your phone. They wanted to search through your laptop. But since you didn't have a charging cable for the laptop, you didn't have any way to get power to the thing. They just sort of let you go on that one.
Right, they couldn't look through the laptop because there wasn't a power cable. What do you do? You know, and yeah, that was really it. The guy was frustrated. He didn't know what to do. He intended to search a laptop.
I'm surprised he didn't take it. Must not have been that that much of an intentional search. Meaning that that maybe they were telling the truth when they said it was because of where you were coming from.
I'm pretty sure it was. I didn't say that I was a nationally syndicated radio talk show host that wished the government agents would all go get real jobs.
Yeah, because if they knew who you were or whatever, if they were specifically looking for you, I think that they would have just confiscated the laptop. They'd have been like, well, we'll take our time with this one.
Okay. And I believe that they can do that at Customs and Border Patrol.
That's right. And the reason why is because what they would say is that I'm not making this argument. That's what they would say. They would say you don't have any rights at a border checkpoint. Oh, yeah, if you're in the United States, then we'll protect your right to free speech and your right to privacy and your right to...
As an American, you have rights in America, but this is a special place, this border checkpoint. Even though it's in America, it's not in America.
Even though
rights is a rights-free zone.
Right. Even though rights are a concept that should apply to all human beings on the entire planet, no matter where they are. The U.S. Constitution doesn't specify that rights only belong to people born within a certain plot of land. It talks about just people having rights.
Right. It's very clear that you're supposed to be secure in your persons, papers, and effects and things like that. This is a constitutional ruling by the Supreme Court that says that in order to keep a free nation, we must blah, 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 blah.
So you don't, according to them, have any kind of right to your privacy at the border, and anything that's on you is subject to being searched, which means that if you don't hand it over to them, put your passcode in it for them, and hand it to them, they can just keep the device for as long as they determine they need to have it for doing whatever investigation they want to have. So basically, if you ever want to see your laptop and or cell phone again, then you have to let them in and look around it, or they'll just take it, and then they might not ever give it back.
Right, and that's what they claim, right? So they're basically the only law enforcement agency that can compel you, by their terminology, to give your passcodes and stuff to them. Everybody else, they can't do it, but Customs and Border Patrol can in a legal sense, and I'm trying to be very specific here. They say they can. All right. The government has determined that it is fine for the government to look through your stuff in this particular government zone, and that's how that goes. What I would have wanted to do as far as this goes is, Ian, I want to ask you, what are the solutions to this? Because I felt very violated. He went through my phone. Obviously didn't go through my laptop. There was no power cable.
Right. And
but he went through
your
phone.
pictures, right?
He's going through my pictures. I was in that moment really glad that my wife and I don't exchange naked pictures of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had one, I would keep it, where I could look at it. And I don't, because she's like, I'm never doing that. But yeah, I mean, he would have seen pictures of me or my wife if we did that kind of thing. And I know people do. So, and whatever the other pictures there might be, but that was what was going through my mind at the time. I'm like, thank God, this guy's just getting pictures of, like bills I've taken pictures of and dogs, random dogs. I take pictures of a lot of flowers, fruit, and people's dogs. So
he got bored quickly then.
Did he at any point leave the room with your device?
No.
Okay, so you were able to observe him going through it?
Right.
Were you able to observe the screen of the device as he was going through it? Okay. Did you demand that sort of thing, or did he just sort of by default provide that to you?
He was obsequious in doing what he had to do. He was, particularly, I should define obsequious. Obsequious just means particularly sweet, right? Like he was...
trying to be the good cop.
He was being the good cop all the way through. Yeah.
Even though he was violating you.
Yeah, in many, many ways.
Right.
Peering into your soul through that phone.
He lubed you up a little bit.
Yeah. Right, he did.
Some people really throw it out there on their phones, They got some real dark on there.
Yeah.
He went through. So I mean, he had no problem going through texts and messages that were from entire, like not from the trip. This didn't have to do with like for one. I'm sort of like, well, the one on WhatsApp there was a particular group that he went into, and some of the stuff we were doing, and that was for the trip. And it's like, okay, I guess this sort of makes some sense. But then he's like scrolling down and he's looking through, things from 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Dear Lord.
They'll go through as much as they feel like going through.
Yeah. So, I mean, it didn't have to do with me being outside the United States. It had to do with an opportunity to look through my phone. This was a fishing trip. And part of the obsequiousness is trying to get me to reveal things. First off, ladies and gentlemen, only answer the questions that you have to answer.
Yeah, that's now look, we're not attorneys, it's not legal advice, but when it comes
But attorneys will tell you this.
But when it comes to a border checkpoint search, at least in the United States, now I don't know what, I can't speak to what rights you might have elsewhere. But at least in the United States, they only should be asking you about your trip. So they don't get to ask you about like what school you go to. I mean, they can ask anything they want. Obviously, but the things you don't have to answer, from what I understand, are anything that's sort of outside the scope of where they're supposed to be focusing. They're Border Patrol, so they have the right to ask you about your trip. Where have you been? Who did you stay with? What was the purpose of the trip? What were you doing in in the country or whatever? That sort of thing. But they shouldn't be asking you things about what you're doing in the United States because you live here. That's not within their scope. So did they try doing that with you?
Well, he asked questions, and what I did was he asked all kinds of questions, and I answered every one of them, but I answered them in a terse fashion. Normally, when I'm talking to people, I take the opportunity to talk to people. And if we get on a subject that I want to pound a message home on, I will. I'm an activist, in my private life too. But in this case, I had to sort of switch over to I'm just simply answering questions, and I'm answering them in as few words as possible. I needed to get out of there because I had a connecting flight, so I didn't want to play the I'm not answering any of your questions game, which is can turn into a rather long game.
Yeah, when it comes to Border Patrol, you pretty much have to answer, from what I understand, you have to answer the travel-related ones. I don't know what they will do to you if you don't. Presumably an indefinite detention is in your future in that case, but it would be interesting to find out. More coming up.
Maxwell, he was a runaway to rescue, great disposition. About 9 years ago, he was scratching a lot, and he started losing some hair. My vet, she says, he must be allergic to the chicken. Another vet said, it's the grain. Third vet, she says it's the weather, something in the air. And then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. I have been listening to these Dynavite ads, hearing about different stories of different people, and it just clicked. I got my first 90-day supply, and it took a grand total of 2 weeks. And the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Dynavite is nutrition.
And Maxwell loves it. Now he's close to 10. And the Dynavite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
Dynavite for life. You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
And he's a spectacular dog.
DINOVITE.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org. Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. All put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
So when talking to a liberal, you have to be politically correct. But when talking to a conservative, you have to be patriotically correct.
Yeah, it's funny how conservatives forget while they're making fun of liberals and how triggered they get over, social issues. But if you don't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem at a hockey game or something, you might get some glares. You might get some people really upset.
I actually had somebody tell me when I was at the State House last week, you should really be standing during the pledge. No, I shouldn't. I don't pledge allegiance to things that don't, give some kind of reciprocal
I'm a slave
protection.
To a piece of cloth. This is my stupid brain-dead life. Amen.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited if you want to join us here. We're talking about border searches of electronic devices. It happened to Mark on the way back in from his recent journey, and it's Ian, Andy, and Mark here in the studio tonight. If you want to join us, the toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. Now, AnyPay 2.0 is here, and cryptocurrency payments are now faster than ever if you're using the right wallet. So if you're using Edge Wallet, you're good to go. Hand Cash, good to go. Bitcoin.com's wallet, Dash Wallet, both are great. But there's some wallets that aren't so great. In fact, they won't work at all with AnyPay. And so the best thing that we can do is encourage these other wallet providers to get with the game and get with the program and make it so their wallets can do the payments protocol that's behind AnyPay 2.0. To learn more about why some wallets work great and others don't work at all, go to anypayinc.com/upgrade. They'll explain it to you there. And it doesn't get too technical. They do a good job of kind of just going over the basics and then give you the information on how you can reach out to Coinomi or Exodus Wallet, RelayX or Bread Wallet. Some of these are some of the wallets. I'm sure that is not the full list, but some of the wallets that need some help. And encourage them to upgrade their software so you can use AnyPay 2.0 and have the best payments you could possibly have with cryptocurrency. Anypayinc.com/upgrade. That's anypayinc.com/upgrade. So I was
easier just to switch to Edge Wallet.
Edge Wallet's a great wallet. There's no doubt about it. It's my preferred one. So I was looking at the latest on
I had a question, Ian.
Yeah.
And I would like to get an answer from my question.
Okay.
So
I was just going to say, I was looking at the latest from the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Okay.
They are one of the major groups that is challenging the federal government's border searches here, basically saying these things are unconstitutional. So I will give you an update on that as we go along here.
Great. My question is, what can I do in order to mitigate the difficulties that I had at the border previously? I have not had the problem that you had. You were held for 4 hours because you went to an anarchist convention and you're noisy and a jerk. And whereas I've never had a problem like this before, and it made me feel naked It made me feel.
Did you think it couldn't happen to you?
Powerless. I didn't think it couldn't happen to me, Ian. I just hadn't had it happen to me. And I felt very exposed, vulnerable, and did not like it. So
what can you do?
What does one do? So he would have gone through my laptop.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah,
if he could have, and he couldn't. Like circumstances disallowed that. He did go through my phone. And I had to give, right there. Well, actually, my phone is, as long as it's within a certain distance of me, it's unlocked. So it was unlocked because I was standing right next to the guy.
Ah, okay.
But I would have had to put my code in.
Turn that feature off.
In order to, mostly that feature's.
I don't like that feature.
Is useful to me most of the time.
Well, convenience is useful, but it has a cost.
Yeah.
In this case, the cost is your privacy. So, okay. So what can you do? Well, first of all, you can avoid international travel, and that will solve that problem.
Yes, but that's
presuming
that's
you have
giving
to
up
go,
freedom, right?
Right.
Yep.
Presuming you have to go outside of the country, then there are certain things that you can do to mitigate this. One is, now, they're all somewhat technical, right? Like there's no easy button that you can push to all of a sudden give yourself the ability to have all of the documents or things that you would normally have on you and also have total privacy in them. So what you can do is you can have like a travel laptop that is, let's say, sanitized, so it doesn't have any of your business information on it that you wouldn't want the wrong hands to get a hold of. Whatever we're talking about here, that you would only have like the most basic things on this. So like a web browser and a word processor.
Right.
And then you're storing your files maybe on a secured cloud-based device. Because obviously if your files are on Google, the feds can get into that anyway, right? So I mean, if they really want to get into your stuff and you've got it on an unsecured cloud, they can do that.
You could send a thumb drive, an encrypted thumb drive with your files to whatever location you're going to.
Yes, you could, and then you could ship that back.
And you could ship it back or destroy it for that matter.
Yep. Now you're thinking, right?
Okay.
So that's an option. So then you would have
solutions there.
Right. So then you would have your sort of bare bones laptop with just the most, basic software you need. You got
Clearly I could make the trip without a laptop because I made it with a laptop that didn't work.
Right. And you didn't ultimately need that. But if you got to be doing some word processing or whatever, you need full web browsing capabilities, having your own laptop. And if you've got the technical capability, you can do this with the same laptop by switching the hard drive out on that laptop. So you don't have to have two laptops, but if you don't have the technical ability to take your laptop apart. Some of them it's easier than others. Some of them got a panel that's built to come right off. Some of them you got to take out 9 or 10 screws and take them out in the right order, and it can be a bit of a pain. But ultimately, you could have a hard drive that's sort of your bare bones hard drive for travel, and then you could have your normal hard drive for every other time.
All right. So my phone's a hardy enough computer that I could just bring a keyboard, a Bluetooth keyboard, and the emails that I need to send, rather than having to tap them out on the virtual keyboard on
that's an idea.
The thing, I can just type.
Yeah.
And I did this when I was on the boat for a while. It'll do. In this circumstance, clearly I didn't need the laptop, and it would have helped me in that circumstance. So I was thinking a keyboard, but what I really want was some kind of app that makes it look like the TSA agent, or excuse me, the Customs and Border Patrol agent, CBP, Customs Border Patrol, agent is in the phone. But he's not actually in the phone,
They're in
right?
the dummy version.
He's in a in an overlay,
a walled garden,
of the phone.
so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting idea, and I would love to find out that someone has made that particular software, because that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I have not heard about it. If that exists, please, I hope somebody in our chat rooms over at the chat server.
Or call in at 855-450-3733. It's 855-450, free as in freedom.
Right.
And I'm curious if you can think of ways that one can be more free when passing through international borders. At this point,
this doesn't make you more free. It just makes you more secure.
Fine. The United
States,
States,
they're still going to molest you.
Yeah, the United States border has so far been the worst for me
coming through any borders anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some border troubles in the past, and
true for me too.
Canada's a runner-up, but
Canada was super nice to me, even though they rejected me from their country.
Yeah, I don't know if I should say the worst. I mean, frankly, Canada rejected me Canada threw me in jail. Japan turned me around for a 13-hour flight back, and Ghana sent 2 armed soldier-looking guys with berets and combat boots to a hotel room to extort me. And then the police officer gave me his telephone number.
Got some stories. That's awesome.
So let's talk about the phone option, right? Because until there is the program that you're talking about, which again may not exist, but it should. And actually, that would really be ideal if you could just boot into that. That way, there's no way to like force quit the thing or anything. You're just in a fake operating system.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
But I don't think that exists yet. So what can you do with your phone? We can address that on the way. Plus, what's the legal status of these searches? They have been challenged by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and there's been an update within roughly the last year. So we'll recap that for you too. This is Free Talk Live.
Look, I'm sorry, but you're in for a world of pain if you use Koinomi. The reason is their wallet doesn't support payments. The solution is simple. Let them hear your voice. Message Koinomi on Twitter, it takes 5 seconds, and tell them AnyPay sent you, because they're on the fence right now, and your voice will prove that people care about using Bitcoin for payments. Go tweet at Koinomi now. Or even better, leave a review in the App Store. They really pay attention there. Thanks.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions, or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this?
Bureaucrats
cats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up anything that you want. Here in the studio with you tonight, it's Ian.
Andy.
And Mark.
And maybe you've got an experience at the Border Patrol checkpoints coming back into the United States.
Hell of half of our audience is on lockdown in their communities, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. But we're specifically talking about people who've done international travel, and whether you've done it this year or you've done it in previous years, there is a chance that you were already subjected to this kind of an invasive search of whatever devices you might have had on you. So if you're carrying a laptop or a cell phone or other things, if you've got a camera, I had a camera with me. So, they went through the SD card that was on that camera. So anything that you have that is an electronic thing or, flash drive or whatever, they will be interested in looking through it. And the rules are that if you don't hand it over, generally they can just take it from you. Now, there has been an update in one of the cases that's challenging this, and we'll tell you about that coming up here in a bit. But the reality on the ground is whatever the courts say is one thing, and then there's how the police interpret it.
Right.
So we've seen story after story of, for instance, like the classic case of an activist, or not even an activist, just somebody who feels like flipping the bird to a cop. How many times have we seen the news story of cop arrests guy who says F you to him, right?
Right.
We've all seen those stories over the years.
They are not supposed to do that.
They're not supposed to. And there's been court case after court case. And if it does happen to you, contact the ACLU or the whatever state version is in your state, ACLU of whatever state, and let them know that happened. And they'll probably give you an attorney, and you'll probably get a settlement from it, because it's pretty confirmed, like case law, that you have the right to tell a cop F you. It's freedom of speech and all that.
Perhaps not the best idea, but you have the right to do it.
But the point I'm making here is it doesn't matter how many court cases there have been. It doesn't stop the police every time from arresting people.
Well, honestly, if the police get enough pushback on this, they'll just arrest people for things that don't have to do with flipping them off. They'll just
cook up something else.
Make something up and then arrest you for that.
Well, yeah. Normally the charge isn't he flipped me the bird, RSA
Basically,
21.
If a cop arrests you for flipping them the bird at this point, it's a $50,000 check that the town or city or whatever.
But they don't charge you with that, though, Mark. They do charge you with something else. It's usually like disorderly conduct or whatever. But if the only circumstance in the story is that otherwise you were doing lawfully legal things and you flip the cop off, you're going to win that case, most likely. But again, it doesn't stop the police from, in the moment, going ahead and arresting you. And that's what I'm saying here is just because the courts are going to say a thing about these searches doesn't necessarily mean that all of the Border Patrol checkpoints are going to be following whatever the courts say. So you have to keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say...
And it depends sometimes, like who's there at the border,
That's exactly what it depends on.
They could be a total just...
total Nazi,
total maniac, and
total psychopath.
They're not going to care what the Constitution says.
Correct, because the punishment for them is very limited. I mean, every cop that's been in trouble for things very rarely actually has to pay it from their own paycheck. They don't have any kind of judgment against them.
They don't actually have responsibility for their actions. Right. And when people don't have responsibility for their actions, they tend to act irresponsibly, because that's human nature. It's not cop nature.
Yeah.
Although what we do know is that not only are people who people that we would generally consider to be sociopathic attracted to positions of power, but that once normal people, get positions of power, that it tends to make them act in a psychopathic way. And
I think there's like a bat signal just drawing them in, man. The bat signal's just drawing them in.
Oh, they love that power.
Now,
you know?
They do.
I'm certain,
that's where the sickos go.
Yep.
I'm certain that there are people who they're good people that are in all positions of power up and down the dial. But the evidence is, and this isn't me just talking on the radio, this is studies and evidence. The closest thing we have to science, if you want to call soft sciences science, the closest thing we have to science says is that not only, because the sociopathic and psychopathic terms are so muddy these days, not only are bad people attracted to power, but power makes people bad.
It does.
How's that for a truthy statement?
Yeah. Bad recipe, too. We're seeing it.
So regarding what do you do at the border, presuming that these guys may give you a hard time, we already talked about laptops. You could have a kind of a travel laptop or a travel laptop hard drive where it's got just some of the basics on it, no documents that you don't want to get into anybody's hands. Those don't exist on there at all. Then there's also the idea of having, like you said, Mark, taking your phone and just resetting it on the way back. That's the most hardcore version, meaning before you get on the flight back, or maybe as you're pulling in, right? Like
as the plane lands.
As your plane's coming down, you got 10 minutes before you're going to hit the checkpoint.
Call your wife and tell them you love them, and then
hit the reset button on that sucker.
Just hard reset the phone,
right.
And then you've got to redo all your apps and all that stuff.
That's what you'll have to do.
It's a pain.
Yep.
Or you could bring a burner phone and do your work on the burner phone, whatever it is you have to have the phone for, because you basically have to have a phone these days, and then hard reset that thing, and then your phone's at home when you get there.
Yeah. If you don't want to go through that step, what you can do is you can just go through the phone and clear absolutely everything out from it.
Don't keep anything in there.
Right. Well, the best idea is to not keep anything important in there in the first place. But, if you don't want them to see naked pictures or whatever it is you got on your phone, go ahead and delete those things. Now, of course, there are ways for them to undelete things that you've deleted.
You went through the trash. I didn't even know there was a trash on my like the gallery feature on Google Photos or whatever. I don't know anything about this stuff. And of course, all the stuff that's in the trash is just crappy pictures that I don't want to keep. And he's like, "What's this a picture of?" I think it's the inside of my pocket. Like, what do you think I did? Stick it up and give myself a colonoscopy? What do you think that pink, pink kind of weird looking thing is?
Yeah. So the thing is, if they take the phone out of your sight, then they can hook it up to a device that could basically just download the contents completely into their system and essentially do like a forensic level search of it.
And that's bad.
And if you start getting into that area, then you're getting really complicated, because then they could potentially undelete things that have been deleted from the phone.
So if the phone has been hard reset.
I don't know if the reset would solve that problem. It may or it may not. That would be a good question for somebody that's more of an expert on these matters. In my case, they did take my phone behind the scenes, and I protested about that when it happened, but it didn't make a difference, right? Like, hey, you guys, wait a minute. This other guy over here said I could watch as he searched it, and they're like, well, see ya. And they took the phone back to wherever they took it. And my phone had been sanitized prior to that happening, but they still had full access to, because I didn't do the reset like you were talking about, Mark. I just went through and removed it. I logged out of my Bitcoin wallets and things like that, and just kind of went out and deleted some programs from the phone so that they, in theory, couldn't get into them. Like, for instance, a program like Signal or Telegram, you can lock those programs, meaning that you can require a certain code in order to get into those programs. But that's like not the default. You have to go into the settings and turn those sorts of securities on.
Yeah.
So that way, even if you uninstall Telegram, but then you if I uninstalled Telegram, they took the phone back there and they knew that I had a Telegram account and they reinstalled Telegram. By default, Telegram just identifies you by your phone number. So boom, there's all your messages. Wow. But Telegram has a feature that requires you to put a password in anytime you install Telegram and try to log into your account. So there are security features for some of the better programs out there that can keep these bureaucrats out, to where even if they were to, let's say they were to download the contents of the phone, they wouldn't have your password to get into Signal or Telegram. So therefore, that doesn't do them any good in that particular case. But you got to kind of like think about these things in advance. And what's on your phone? What do you not want them to have access to?
Yeah.
So the more that you can do what you're talking about with the burner phone, that's certainly the most secure method of doing it, but also the most inconvenient method of traveling, because then you don't have access to the things you normally have access to.
Right.
So it's a trade-off between convenience and security.
Yeah.
The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. If you've got some suggestions here, by no means am I an expert on this topic.
But you've thought about it more than I have.
I have thought about it. I've been through it. And you can bring up whatever you want here. You can join us on the radio. This is Free Talk Live.
Are you afraid to go to the mailbox because of letter after letter from the IRS? Are they stacking on more and more penalties and interest? By now, you know the problem won't go away on its own. Don't let the IRS chase you to your grave with penalties and interest and liens and levies. You need real help now. I'm Dan Pilla. I wrote the book on tax debt settlement, and I help thousands of people solve tax problems they thought couldn't be solved. I can help you too. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, danpilla.com. That's danpilla.com. danpilla.com.
It's not over. Sadly, our nation is going through tough times again, with no end in sight, and nobody knows what might happen next year. That's why it's a good idea to plan ahead, so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We're My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. We provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, our foods will be there when you need it most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. We have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from. When the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. When you order from MyPatriotSupply.com, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep in no time. Prepare today. Time is short. MyPatriotSupply.com. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. In the studio with you tonight, you've got Ian.
Andy.
And Mark.
So we've been talking about the border searches, specifically Customs and Border Protection Patrol. Anyway, the CBP, those folks, they will be possibly looking through devices if you are coming back into the United States. It happened to Mark earlier this week, detained for over an hour as a bureaucrat pawed through his cell phone, ultimately passing on pawing through your laptop, Mark, in this case because it was dead and you didn't have a power cable for it. So they let you slide on that one.
Yeah, I managed to dodge that one.
Which they didn't have to do, I don't think. But then again, there was an update. According to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the ACLU, in November of last year, so about a year ago, there was what they describe as a major victory for privacy rights. A federal court in Boston ruled that the government's suspicionless searches of international travelers' smartphones and laptops at airports and other U.S. ports of entry violate the Fourth Amendment.
Okay.
The ruling came in a lawsuit, Al-Assad versus Michelinen, filed by the ACLU, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, ACLU of Massachusetts as well, on behalf of 11 travelers whose smartphones and laptops were searched without individualized suspicion at U.S. ports of entry. Quote, this ruling significantly advances Fourth Amendment protections for the millions of international travelers who enter the United States every year, unquote. That's according to Esha Bantari, staff attorney with the ACLU's Speech Privacy and Technology Project. She continued saying, by putting an end to the government's ability to conduct suspicionless fishing expeditions, the court reaffirms that the border is not a lawless place, that we don't lose our privacy rights when we travel. This is a great day for travelers who can now cross the international border without fear that the government will, in the absence of any suspicion, ransack the extraordinarily sensitive information we all carry in our electronic devices.
Now, this term, suspicion, whenever you're talking about lawsuits, you have to consider the legal terminology. Mm-hmm. What does suspicion mean by their standard? Because what they claimed to me was that I was pulled into secondary because of the region of the world to which I traveled. Now, I don't know if that region...
Is that individualized suspicion in their mind?
Is that region West Africa? Mm-hmm. Africa? Is it everything that isn't Newark, New Jersey? I just don't know.
So they say that they must demonstrate the individualized suspicion of contraband before they can search a traveler's device.
Individualized suspicion of contraband.
That
All
they
right.
believe that there's something on that phone or on that laptop that they think that you have.
Okay.
But that's different than having a warrant, and it's different than having probable cause.
Yes.
So reasonable suspicion is not the same level of requirements.
Right. Reasonable articulable suspicion is something that has been required for hundreds of years in order to create a detention situation. So, you've got a bag full of money and a bank has just been robbed a few blocks away and you're running. Reasonable articulable suspicion that you have committed a crime. Now, this person traveled to an area where Muslims live? I don't know.
So there's another story that's related to this that actually came out earlier this year, March of 2020. And this is from the American Bar Association. So these are the attorneys who are writing this particular update for other attorneys in this particular case. And it talks about the same case, which is Al-Assad. Actually, wait a minute. Al-Assad versus Michelinen. But then this other one is Al-Assad versus Duke. So the case was originally styled Al-Assad versus Duke because the initial suit was filed against Elaine Duke, the acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. I see. Summary judgment was granted in late 2019 for the plaintiffs under a different case name, Al-Assad versus Nielsen, because a different Homeland Security bureaucrat had been put into that place. So that's why the case
Trump
name has changed.
Keeps moving the bureaucrats around.
Yeah, bear in mind that we're talking about... So this is an important distinction that the ACLU did not mention. Bear in mind that we're talking here about forensic searches of electronic devices, not the less intrusive manual searches.
Okay.
And what you went through was a less intrusive manual search, meaning a person flipping through photos.
Okay.
Right? They didn't plug your phone into any kind of a device. They didn't take it behind the scenes where it's out of your sight to where they could then plug it into a forensics machine and download the entire capacity, essentially image the phone, right? So if they can plug it into one of those devices,
plugged in,
they can just take all the data right off of it.
Yep.
So that's what they're talking about here. They're talking about the forensic style searches, not the manual ones. The story here says the latter, meaning the manual searches, have been previously upheld by federal appellate decisions in the 4th and the 9th Circuit. Al-Sad is the first case to consider the question with regard to forensic searches. So ACLU's release made it sound like this is all, going to be over with.
Sure did, yeah.
But that didn't describe your experience.
I was already, I was already planning which lawyer I was going to call and talk to them about my experience.
Well, I would say call the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I mean, at the very least, they'll probably do what they told me, which is that, hey, we appreciate you reaching out, but we're already in the midst of this case, and we don't need any more plaintiffs, basically. Okay. But you never know. I mean, it doesn't hurt to reach out to them and say, hey, this happened to me. Let me know if there's anything that I can do or that you can do for me, that kind of thing.
Got it.
So prior to the summary judgment, the court denied the government's motion to dismiss and in the process made several critical rulings about how the Constitution protects digital privacy and free speech at the border. The district court relied heavily on the Supreme Court's 2014 decision in Riley versus California, which balanced the privacy interests in cell phones against the government's interest in conducting warrantless searches incident to arrest. To wit, officer safety and preservation of evidence. Riley held that the Fourth Amendment requires police officers to get a warrant before searching an arrestee's cell phone.
Yes. Now, my question is, if that Constitution is so, and it doesn't say anywhere in the Constitution the constitutional rights only apply to Americans on American soil or to citizens or, whatever, then why is it that Customs and Border Patrol can do more than a local law enforcement, than an FBI agent can do?
That is a good question. Unfortunately, there are what they describe as well-settled exceptions to those constitutional protections. They actually address that coming up here in the next paragraph. So privacy at the border, however, presents more difficult questions. So again, the other case they were talking about was just normal cops inside the country need a warrant to go into somebody's cell phone. But on the border, they say it's more difficult. The Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. So there's that unreasonable word that they can shove a Mack truck through.
Well, that's that's what it says in the Constitution.
Yeah. So nevertheless, border searches of international travelers are a well-settled exception. It implicates the sovereign's right to control who and what may enter the country. And when they say the sovereign, they mean the government gang. We don't agree that that's a sovereign, but that's a whole other story. So they say that it is justifiable.
Functionally, that's so. I mean, that's how it is in the world. You're supposed to be, I was taught in civics class that we citizens were sovereign, but
you cannot be the same. You cannot be a sovereign citizen. It is impossible. Those two words are contradictions. You are either a serf/citizen, meaning that you owe a duty of allegiance to your protectors, the state, which of course they have no allegiance to you. They have no obligation to protect you. So the whole idea of a citizen is total BS.
Sure.
So you either are a serf or you are a sovereign, which means that you are the king of your own dominion, basically. You're your own
but
king.
as king, you should, kings should be actually sovereign. If you claim to be sovereign, you should be sovereign, right? But
you should.
People that would claim to be sovereign aren't, because at any point, those that actually are sovereign will come in and do whatever they want to do to you. I could have claimed to be sovereign while sitting in something akin to a holding cell full of weary travelers there at the Customs and Border Patrol.
Well, that king has more men than you do.
That's right. That's all. It's just me saying words and warming the air.
Criminals and drug dealers giving a hard time to normal people just trying to get by.
You're talking about the government guys.
Yep.
Yeah. The most recent drug they've been dealing is the vaccines, and you've got a story about that coming up here. You want to talk about the effects of some of these vaccines. We're getting into that later, but back to the story. So they say that it implicates the sovereign's right to control who and what may enter the country, and is justifiable from their perspective, from a number of different perspectives, including territorial integrity, national security, and interdiction of criminal conduct, ranging from contraband to terrorism. So they're just sort of recapping that, hey, there's a lot of court cases that say you don't have any rights at the border, according to these guys. The U.S. border is not a constitution-free zone, however, and those sovereign interests must be balanced against individual rights, including the right to privacy. So we can talk more.
All this soft language. Balanced.
Yeah.
You know.
Balancing just means we're taking away your freedoms in the name of the state. 855-450, free like freedom. You can join us here. Hour number 2 coming up. Free Talk Live.
Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have 2 cats, Sweet Pea and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you want to do what's best for them, to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cats to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life.
You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Stamps.com brings the post office and UPS shipping right to your computer. Go to Stamps.com to start a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale with promo code FOX. That's Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the page and type in FOX.
A giant step forward in the fight against COVID-19. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. A key FDA panel has endorsed one of the vaccines.
Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine has been endorsed by an FDA advisory panel made up of non-government experts in vaccine development, infections, and medical statistics. The 17-4 vote concludes a review to see if the vaccine is safe and effective for emergency use in patients 16 years and older. A final decision on the vaccine must still come from the FDA. The U.S. set a single-day record for COVID-related deaths Wednesday with more than 3,100. Pfizer expects to have about 25 million doses of its 2-shot vaccine ready by the end of this month, with initial supplies reserved for healthcare workers in vulnerable populations. In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The first 30,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine set to arrive in Canada in the next few days, and senior officials there say it should be ready to be administered next Monday. 3,124 people died yesterday from the virus, the highest one-day total yet, according to Johns Hopkins University. More than 106,000 Americans are hospitalized. The pandemic has killed more than 290,000 people in the U.S., with more than 15 million confirmed infections. Pennsylvania, the latest state to put COVID restrictions back in place.
For the next 3 weeks, please, I ask all my fellow Pennsylvanians to stand with me, united against COVID.
Governor Tom Wolf's school sports are now on hold. Gyms, theaters, and casinos have to close, and indoor dining is also suspended. The restrictions go into effect Saturday and run through January 4th. The Wisconsin Air National Guard's 115th Fighter Wing says one of its pilots has died after his plane crashed in the Hiawatha National Forest in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. America is listening to Fox News. Man who police say threatened.
Don't let the smart speaker be the only smart one in the room. Instead of binging on mindless entertainment or letting the news get your blood pressure up, feed your brain at Curiosity Stream. Curiosity Stream has been called the Netflix for documentaries, with on-demand access to thousands of documentaries, award-winning exclusives, and original programs for just $20 a year. You can get smarter entertainment at CuriosityStream.com. Watch anywhere on any device and cancel anytime. Whether it's Roman armor or convective cooking, they go deep on all subjects with nonfiction shows like Amazing Dino World, Pompeii Disaster Street, and The History of Home with Nick Offerman. And with Curiosity Stream, you're in good company. It was launched by Discovery Channel creator John Hendricks and has over 13 million subscribers worldwide. Join them right now, and for a limited time, get 25% off when you sign up at CuriosityStream.com/Fox. CuriosityStream.com/Fox for 25% off. CuriosityStream.com/Fox.
To bomb a Teamsters union building is in custody in Spokane, Washington.
Police in Spokane say the right now unidentified man walked into the Teamsters labor union building Wednesday with smoke billowing from his backpack, threatening to blow up the building that we're also told houses local Democratic and other offices, and allegedly held one person against their will before the building was safely evacuated and the suspect arrested. Investigators determined there was no explosive device in the bag and have not indicated the motivation, though saying the man may have had a politically motivated manifesto. Both local Democrats and Republicans condemning the incident and thanking law enforcement for a quick and safe resolution. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
The Treasury Department says the federal deficit in the first 2 months.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
It's the Onion Radio News. A spokeswoman gives birth to a spokeschild. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Tacoma spokeswoman Tammy Barker became the proud mother of a bouncing baby spokeschild last night. According to spokespeople, Barker, a spokeswoman for a Tacoma-based pharmaceutical firm, the birthing process was a major success. Peter Wahlberg, spokesman for Tammy's husband Phil, had this to say.
At 9:17 p.m. last night, an 8.5-month-old spokes fetus was delivered alive, and through the miracle of birth became a 7-pound, 6-ounce spokes child. Spokes father and spokes mother are doing fine.
Spokeswoman Barker is expected to be released from St. Robert's Hospital tomorrow. The spokeschild will remain in the hospital's media care unit for several weeks of training. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything that you want. And the toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Coming up, Rush Limbaugh talking about secession. We've got also an update on the Pfizer vaccine. That's all on the way tonight. With you in the studio, it's Ian.
Andy.
And Mark.
But first, we've been talking about what happened to you, Mark, at the Border Patrol checkpoint coming back into Newark. International Airport. Was this, Tuesday? Monday?
This week.
Yeah, so you came back in from a long journey over to, you did admit it was Africa. I had not said that, but you said that earlier today.
Right. I don't know exactly what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say.
Africa's a big place.
It is a big place. It is a big place.
That does not narrow it down. But they didn't like that you were coming back in from Africa, at least so they claimed to you. So that was the reason why they were subjecting you to a search of your electronic devices. Now, this is what has been described as a manual search, not a forensic level search. And according to the American Bar Association, the story that the ACLU was publicizing last year in November about a judge ruling in summary judgment that a government must have a reasonable suspicion of digital contraband before searching electronic devices at the border only applies to the non-manual searches, the forensics level searches.
That means them taking your device, whatever it is, plugging it into their black box, and wiping it out, likely installing all kinds of malware.
No, they wouldn't wipe it out. They would copy all of the data from it.
Okay, copying all the data and then doing whatever else it does. I mean, how many people have we talked to who have had their devices, confiscated by the government that have gotten them back and they were never the same?
Oh yeah. If you do get a device back from the government
plugs your device into one of their devices, that device is screwed.
At the bare minimum, you're going to want to reset that device. If you've got a laptop hard drive, you're going to want to format it. You're going to want to, if you got a phone, you're going to want to reset that thing, just in case they put something nasty on there. If not, get rid of the entire thing and replace it. But going on here with the American Bar Association and their update that they wrote in March of this year. This is the most recent update I could find on this case, which is specifically in regards to a case filed by the ACLU and the Electronic Frontier Foundation about multiple plaintiffs. I think it was 11 different plaintiffs suing in the Al-Assad versus you fill in the blank case. They keep changing the name because the bureaucrats that are representing...
Call it the Assad case.
Yeah, the Department of Homeland Security keep changing. So they talk about the so-called balancing of your rights with the government's need for security. And so they say here that the privacy at the border presents more difficult questions. They say the border is not a constitution-free zone. However, there's a well-settled bunch of exceptions to border searches, meaning that what would normally be completely inappropriate to happen legally inside the United States as far as a search goes is more tolerated at the border. And there's been a ton of cases about this. So unfortunately, you don't have the same level of rights there. Now, they say that on the privacy side of the balance, the Al-Assad court explained that electronic devices implicate privacy interests in a fundamentally different manner than searches of typical containers or even searches of a person. So, there's a difference between going into your lunchbox and looking around as opposed to going into your cell phone and getting access to your entire life, right? All your emails that happen to be in your email account, all your photographs that happen to go back for however many years they go back. So the decision from U.S. District Court Judge Denise Casper quotes the Riley decision in saying that, quote, the sum of an individual's private life can be reconstructed through 1,000 photographs labeled with dates, locations, and descriptions. A person's internet browsing history, historic location information, and mobile application software or apps can form a revealing montage of the user's life. And a cell phone search would typically expose the government to far more than the most exhaustive search of an entire home. So these were the judge's reasons for ruling against the forensic searches being just allowed across the board to anybody they want to search. Warrantless searches of a particular category of effects, such as cell phones, must be sufficiently, quote, tethered, unquote, to the government's interest, according to the Assad court. At the border, the government's interest in conducting warrantless searches are to collect duties and to prevent the entry of contraband and other harmful items. The key inquiry became whether warrantless searches of electronic devices sufficiently advance those interests. Agreeing with the plaintiffs that there is an important difference between border officers conducting warrantless searches for, quote, contraband, where the tethering is stronger, as opposed to conducting warrantless searches for, quote, evidence of contraband or other unlawful activity, where tethering is weaker, the court found unpersuasive the government's claim that child pornography is a form of digital contraband that justifies warrantless searches of electronic devices.
So meaning that anybody who's crossing a border might have child porn, so we need to look at everybody's kind of stuff?
Well, the court said that is unpersuasive, that the potential that someone may have some child pornography is...
Everybody's got some potential to have something bad on their computer, and child pornography is the thing they love to trot out because everybody thinks it's bad. I mean, nobody likes the idea of children being sexually abused, and they like even less the idea that somebody might find some prurient interest in that. No doubt, I'm on that team too. However, I am not willing to compromise everybody's digital freedom based on the fact that there are a few perverts running around.
So the court then emphasized that border searches of electronic devices burden travelers' First Amendment rights to free speech and association by exposing membership in organizations, unmasking anonymous speech, and intruding on freedom of the press. In light of these substantial First Amendment interests, the court held the government must prove a, quote, substantial relation between the government interest and the information required to be disclosed, unquote. Now, the court thus denied the motion to dismiss, but left open the issue of the appropriate level of individualized suspicion that a border officer must have before searching an electronic device. Reasonable suspicion or warrant based on probable cause. Resolution of this question had to await summary judgment. So finally, in her November of 2019 summary judgment opinion, the judge held that border agents must have a reasonable suspicion that a device contains digital contraband before searching or seizing the device. The traditional border search exception to the warrant requirement applies only to routine searches, but searches of personal electronic devices are non-routine given the magnitude of the privacy and First Amendment interest at stake. The reasonable suspicion standard is a common-sense approach, the court held, and is met when border agents can point to specific articulable facts more than just a hunch, and the inferences reasonably to be drawn therefrom suggesting the device contains contraband.
Sounds pretty clear to me. They're not allowed to search your electronic devices when you go through there.
But yet they're saying this only applies to the forensics level search.
Not the manual search.
So the manual search... So and what's
That's them gathering evidence for the forensic search.
Yeah. As to the relief, the court entered a declaratory judgment that CPB and ICE policies violate the Fourth Amendment to the extent that they don't require reasonable suspicion that the devices contain contraband, and that non-cursory searches and or seizures of electronic devices without such reasonable suspicion violate the Fourth Amendment. The court declined, however, to enter any nationwide injunctive relief. With only one thus far decision at the trial court level on forensic border searches, where does that leave traveling with electronic devices containing confidential client information? So here's where they get into the advice for the lawyers.
Right. That's a really great question. So a lawyer crosses an international border. A Customs and Border Patrol agent says, I must go through your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that lawyer has... And one would presume, in all likelihood, if there's reasonable articulable suspicion that that lawyer has confidential information that a law enforcement officer may not just go and look at. So what happens then? Are lawyers and only lawyers exempt now from Customs and Border Patrol searches? Because then everybody's a lawyer.
Well, everybody's not a lawyer. Because you have to be a member of the Bar Association in order to be a lawyer, which is a very exclusive club.
Well, you may have legal documents on your phone, and it's reasonable to presume that you have access to your own legal documents on the phone, and that the police officer may not go through those.
Indeed, but they won't know necessarily, right? I mean,
that's why they shouldn't be going through your phone. I'd like to advise you right now, Customs and Border Patrol agent, that there are legal documents on that phone, and you going through there may very well violate federal law. Not only will you be held accountable through your department, but you'll be held accountable individually, and this may affect your pension, sir.
So they have some suggestions, and we'll see if those are worth sharing. Also, you can share your thoughts with us. You want to weigh in on this discussion, you can join us. 855-450, free like freedom. This is Free Talk Live.
Maxwell, he was scratching and losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to chicken. Another vet said, eat the grain. Third vet said, it's the weather. Then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. It took 2 weeks, and the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out. The Dinovite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com. Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have 2 cats, Dixie and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you'll want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cats to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life.
You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by DJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up what you want. On the way here tonight, we still have to talk about the vaccine situation. Andy's wanting to cover what the latest is on the Pfizer tests that have been going on. Plus, Rush Limbaugh has been talking about secession in a positive way and is getting some pretty major press for that. So maybe it's finally time for this to become a mainstream issue. We can talk about all those things, but we're still talking about the legal situation, and none of us are attorneys in this room, but I'm reading a piece by the American Bar Association, which is, of course, the major organization of attorneys in the United States. And this is the advice they're giving to their own people. This is advice for attorneys, written by attorneys in this particular case. And you may be able to glean something useful for it, for this whole situation of whether or not you can cross a border without being molested in your electronic devices by the government bureaucrats in the Customs and Border Patrol Division, which happened to you earlier this week, Mark, where they pawed through your cell phone as you were trying to get to your next flight. You had to spend over an hour, or roughly an hour, not behind bars, but detained by men with guns.
Yeah, there weren't bars, but I wasn't free to leave.
There is a room back there, by the way, in case they need to put you behind bars. They do have one.
I'm sure they do.
But
they looked like they did.
Yeah.
This looked very much like a 1970s police precinct.
Yeah, it looked like a booking room, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So
and by the way, I feel terrible for the people that have to work there.
Oh, well.
I mean, what a miserable place to go to work every day.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And allow me to wax American for just a moment. Does it seem strange to you that the Customs and Border Patrol agents, the American Customs and Border Patrol agents, were speaking Spanish behind the desk? Like, I don't know. I mean, I get that there's no national language. I got it. It seems strange that American law enforcement officers in what is largely considered to be an English-speaking country. It's not so, but it's certainly, the predominantly spoken language in this country. We're speaking Spanish behind the counter.
They were speaking New Yorker where I was, and that wasn't any better.
I'm just saying.
I'd prefer the Spanish.
No, it was New York Spanish.
But yeah, they looked like a miserable bunch of fat, unhealthy bureaucrats just trundling through their existence in this terrible, institutional, horribly uncomfortable and ugly place with the green lighting and the ugly metal everywhere. Just a place you do not want to spend any time. So the question is, what do you do? Because they're now saying, as of a court decision, which was at I believe a district court level in November of 2019, in a summary judgment opinion, the judge ruled that border agents have to have reasonable suspicion that a device contains digital contraband before searching or seizing the device. But they're also saying that this only applies to forensics level searches, not the manual search, which is just the bureaucrat flipping through your phone and looking around. So what do you do as a lawyer or anyone who has, information that you don't want the government to get a hold of? Specifically, they're referring to CCI, which stands for Confidential Client Information, which for lawyers is basically any conversation they have with their clients or any paperwork between them and their clients. So what do you do? Well, they say, number one, if you can, leave the device containing CCI at home. 2, consider having a portable device designed for international travel that does not contain CCI. So it's similar to what I suggested earlier, having a separate device that's just the bare bones laptop with nothing on it.
I question whether they're going to like that very much.
Too bad.
So when the government agents, if they get upset, things get a little hairier, right? If they decide that they're going to keep the device, they can.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's a risk you're taking going through
that they want to keep you for a period of time of indefinite detention. They can. And nobody's looking for that, Ian.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a really important aspect of this is you don't want to seem callous to how people's lives go. Otherwise, they're not going to take your advice. People don't care about what you know.
Well,
they want to know that
if you take the advice. So you have to make the decision on what is important to you.
Yes.
If you feel like you're somehow better off by having a bunch of things for a government bureaucrat to look through, then by all means, let them look through your crap. If you think that's going to help you for some reason.
There should be some kind of app that looks like an overlay to a phone.
But didn't you just say you were worried that they'd be mad if they didn't, if there was nothing there?
The app needs to be they need to be a bunch of pictures of puppies and roses and all kinds of things for them to look at. It needs to look like a phone, as opposed to, because I can tell you, I don't have a problem if I walk into Customs and Border Patrol and I've just reset my phone, telling them, I just reset it while I was on the plane because I thought there was a good chance that we'd be together, and I don't want you to have it. Right? Like, I don't have a problem with screwing with them. I do this for a living. However, I understand how people feel when they're like, I've got 45 minutes, you stinking officious bureaucrat, to get to my next plane. Could we move this along?
The more crap you've got on there, the longer the search is going to take.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Because it'll take them longer to go through the stuff.
Buddy, I have 7 years worth of stuff on my phone. And they went, it took him 3 minutes He spent 3 minutes on my phone?
It's a cursory search.
3 minutes too many.
Yeah.
But that's what he did.
Well, that was a cursory search.
Sure it was.
In that particular case.
No reasonable suspicion, of course.
No.
No, I'm just saying, Ian. I mean, that I don't know that what you're saying there is true.
Yeah, I don't think that you should adjust your behavior by giving the government more of your stuff to go through. I see what you're saying, put a bunch of fake stuff on there, but I don't think that really what you're talking about is going to matter. If they want to mess with you, they're going to mess with you. And if they want to detain you for longer, they're going to detain you for longer.
If they want to mess with you, they will mess with you. But you don't want them to want to mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be as innocuous as possible.
You're already in it, dude, if you're in secondary at that point.
I was in it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I didn't spend an hour there.
Good for you.
And that includes sitting there, meditating, because I couldn't look at my phone, staring, with my eyes shut ahead of time, and waiting for them to slaughter my last name.
Yeah. I don't think there's, if you want to call in with your experience, I don't think that having a clean laptop is going to result in you being more molested by these people. There's nothing for them to do.
When you went through, you had a sanitized laptop and a sanitized phone?
I did, yeah.
What were the results?
I got my stuff back.
Just nothing? They didn't say
But
anything about it?
he said 3-4 hours, right?
Yeah, but it took a while, but that, wasn't because they said anything to me or indicated that they were looking for me specifically.
Yes,
I overheard a conversation or at least snippets of a conversation.
I traveled with you
coming from
multiple
an office.
times where it's clear they were looking for you.
Yeah, so they gave me more of a scrutiny than they did to you, and than they probably do to most people that they're doing these secondary searches to.
Yeah.
But I got my stuff back. And in the case of the laptop, when they took that away, I didn't put the password into it, so they weren't able to actually search the laptop in that particular case. And I had a Linux laptop with an encrypted hard drive on it, so even if they duped the hard drive,
they just got a bunch of letters.
There wasn't anything on it anyway, but they would have gotten just an encrypted hard drive, and so they wouldn't have been able to get into it.
Gobbledygook.
So yeah, it's definitely best to have an encrypted hard drive and things like that. If for instance, you want to if you understand that you could lose the device and there's nothing that is that important on there, then you can just refuse to put the password in and let them take it. And then let them spend however many, hundreds of hours trying to crack into a hard drive that doesn't ultimately have anything on it. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. All put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com. Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Some of our live shows are streamed in HD on Twitch. Please follow and share at twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Talking about what happens at these Border Patrol checkpoints. The toll-free number, if you want to join us, it's 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio, you've got Ian.
Andy.
And Mark.
Going through some of the attorneys' recommendations from the American Bar Association, given the rulings that have come out in the Electronic Frontier Foundation / ACLU case that has been brought against the Border Patrol, against the Department of Homeland Security, where a judge did rule in favor of the average person, saying that the government gang does need to have reasonable suspicion that devices contain contraband in order to go with a forensics level search of that device at the border. Again, we're just talking about that international coming back into the United States, that situation, not stuff happening within the U.S. So then they ask, they give some advice here for the attorneys, presumably, who are reading it, as to what do you do if you've got what they call confidential client information, or CCI, on a device. Well, number one, they say just leave the device at home. And again, this advice applies to anybody that's got things you don't want the government to find.
Right. But these are lawyers telling lawyers, leave your device at home. Right. I mean, what a lame way to address this.
Well, that's number one. If you want to be the ultimate, that's what I said at first too. When
lawyers
I was giving
telling lawyers that too.
Yeah, when I was giving you suggestions, I said if you don't have to bring it, then don't bring it. That's the easiest way to deal with this.
Well, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. The government is so difficult to deal with. Mm-hmm. The people that sue people
are too afraid.
Don't want to have to sue the government. I mean, honestly, this is how we get a better government, is when lawyers are able to get some kind of remediation.
Well, in theory. I mean, where's the better government?
No government is good government.
Right. That's because the lawyers run the government, too. We have a lawyer industrial complex running the government.
So they say you could also have a separate device. And, obviously with a phone, you can move your SIM card from one phone to another, so you can still keep the same number but have a separate device for traveling if you wanted to. Or like Mark was saying earlier, you could just hit the reset button and keep your CCI or whatever information off of that phone entirely. They say if a separate device is not possible and you bring with you one or more devices containing CCI, try to scrub them of the CCI by using software professionally designed by IT experts for that purpose and not merely pressing the delete button. So again, as I suggested earlier, they could probably undelete stuff, so that's not likely going to help you. They actually say here, or better yet, have a teenager do it.
That's hilarious.
That is not good advice, by the way,
No,
because
it's not.
Because there are a lot of...
It's funny,
yeah, it's
but
funny.
it's not good advice.
It's funny because, teenagers and young people spend a lot of time on their phones, but that doesn't mean that they know anything about them.
Right.
It may mean that they know how to get into their settings and change a few things here and there, but they may not understand.
Snapchat filters.
Yeah, they may not understand about how these devices actually work or, some of the more technical aspects.
And the worst part of this is that teenagers believe that they know more about devices than
not all of them.
A lot of them do. I mean, a lot of them believe what they're told when it comes to, oh, well, I'm sure you know, like I didn't know how to change the VCR clock from flashing any more than anybody else did when I was a kid. And in all likelihood, I'm not saying you're a teenager. Your teenager may be a little genius, but a lot of teenagers really don't know anything about electronics.
I wanted to correct you. You said teenagers just believe what they're told, right?
Some teenagers do.
I'm looking around at a lot of people right now in this world, this COVID world, that are just believing what they're told.
Plenty of old people and middle-aged people.
It runs the gamut.
Right. And that's my evidence that teenagers do what they're told or believe what they're told is that everybody believes what they're told.
Yep.
So they do say here that you could obviously connect to a cloud storage where you can keep your secretive documents, and then they wouldn't be on the device. But they say beware, moving data to the cloud is not a panacea. Border agents or other government officials may try to search your cloud data without your knowledge by dealing directly with the service provider, meaning they go to Google and say, we think that this person has this information. They either have a warrant or they just ask, and maybe they'll let them in. But if it's a cloud that is not encrypted, if you're putting files that are in the clear on that cloud, then, well, you're at risk, period.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind as well.
Yes, you are.
Encryption of the confidential information is not sufficient to comply with your ethical obligations. Border agents may demand that you provide password or other decrypting information, and failure to do so can lead to unpleasantness for you, and at a minimum, your device being seized and detained for a period of time. So here's one other suggestion that I have for you that I forgot to mention earlier. So let's say that you can't do what we talked about where you've got like a dummy device, or like a bare bones device with just, a web browser. You absolutely have to have the files with you, okay, for whatever reason. Or you can't do the flash drive idea that Mark suggested earlier. You have to have them with you at all times for whatever reason. Well, what you can do is you can make sure you back up those files before you get on that final flight. So you can do a backup before you leave. Okay, so you've got time before you leave, right? So take all the important files from that hard drive that's on that laptop or that phone, copy them to something that's going to stay in the United States, stay in your office or stay in your home, on a separate hard drive or backup flash drive or whatever. Leave that there. And then as you're on your trip, if you're making new files, you don't store those on the hard drive on the laptop. If you make a brand new file that you need to save that encrypted on some sort of an encrypted drive, encrypted email, wherever it is you can save things safely on the cloud. And then that way, if you get into a situation where Customs and Border Patrol is saying they want to have access to your device, but you've still got all your files on there, right? Because again, I'm talking about the situation where you have everything with you.
Yep.
If you are on a Linux-based system on a computer and you have installed that Linux with encryption, because when you install most Linux distributions, they give you the option to encrypt the entire hard drive.
Right.
Meaning that when that laptop is powered on, you have to put in a decryption password into the drive. So as long as it's a secure password, a good password, that thing is locked down.
Right.
And so if you go through the Border Patrol checkpoint and they let you through, good, you're good, you get through, no problem. They don't do the secondary search. If they secondary search you and they say, Mr. Edge, we're going to need you to put your password here into this laptop so we can look around, and you say, I don't know the password, or you just refuse, right? Whatever you're going to do, I'm not going to put the password.
I have memory issues.
Yeah, I'm not going to put the password in.
I do not recall.
Right, I don't recall the password. Yeah, it's a good one. I don't recall.
It worked for Reagan a lot.
Yeah. So if you do that, then they may take the laptop at that point, but they're just taking a laptop with an encrypted hard drive on it, and if your password is sufficiently, difficult, it would be probably pretty impossible for them to crack that. If your password is easy to brute force, on the other hand, then they would have access to all your files. So this is like the most risky thing to do, is to actually let these people keep the device, which is why having a sanitized device that they can go into is the best option.
Right. So many cases, what looks like a good password these days, they want you to use like characters and caps and letters and numbers. These, as I understand it, are not necessarily good passwords. In fact, that a better password is some longer phrase. A phrase that any phrase is basically going to be 20 or 30 or 40 characters long. Now, every one of us has a phrase that we have memorized, and as you get better at typing that phrase out, you can bang that thing out pretty quickly. So a phrase to get into the laptop will make it so that their black box crackers have a very, very, very tough time getting in, as opposed to an 8-digit password with letters, numbers, and characters and all that stuff. That they're going to go through that faster.
And they actually do recommend here in their additional helpful pointers that you should back up the data before you leave. That way, if you do have to, if you do decide to wipe the hard drive while you're at your destination before you leave, no big deal. You've got all the files when you get home. And then you just don't have your laptop for that final flight. No big deal, right? And so they say here, if you are not a U.S. citizen, like many of the wonderful foreign lawyer members they have, be aware that refusing to comply with the border agent's demand you unlock your device, provide your device password, or disclose your social media information may raise special concerns. If you are a foreign visitor, you may be more easily denied entry into the country. If you're not from the United States, they can screw you even harder, basically, including just refuse you entry.
Right. They can't send me home away from the United States.
Right. They ultimately will have to let you in if you're from the United States, but they may take your devices if you don't let them into them. More coming up.
Attention business owners body slammed by overwhelming debt. If your business is in trouble, hassled by creditors, if you're frustrated, finally fed up with big business bailouts while your business has been left for dead, please listen close. There's a brand new fast-track bankruptcy. Some have even called it the biggest small business bailout in American history. Designed for individuals and their businesses. And look, almost no one knows about this yet. My attorney wasn't even aware of it. The truth is, beating the system has never been easy because it's rigged in a sense against the little guy. But here's the jaw-dropping news nobody's talking about. They've literally just changed the system so that you can beat it, but only if you understand how the new game has to be played. Find out if you qualify at pocketsoflight.com. This government-backed small business repair program is still legal, but may not be renewed after the election. Fight back fairly, fight back ethically at pocketsoflight.com.
It's not over. Sadly, our nation is going through tough times again, with no end in sight, and nobody knows what might happen next year. That's why it's a good idea to plan ahead, so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We're My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. We provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, our foods will be there when you need it most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. We have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from. When the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. When you order from MyPatriotSupply.com, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep in no time. Prepare today. Time is short. MyPatriotSupply.com. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for Forkfest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow Forkfesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the Forkfest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Love what we do? Please help support our international satellite channels at patreon.lrn.fm. That's patreon.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You can dial in toll free here. Now, we don't give legal advice here on Free Talk Live because we're not attorneys. But attorneys do give legal advice.
But we've been sued more than once.
And we're reading what the attorneys wrote, in this case, from the American Bar Association about, some ideas of how to handle these Border Patrol checkpoints, specifically the secondary searches where they go through phones and laptops.
That's because they did this to me this week.
That's right. For the first time to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've done it to you in the past.
They have done it to me once in the past.
And mine, you were very likely, highly likely to have been targeted, whereas I am unlikely to have been targeted. I just got secondary because I traveled through Africa.
And I just get molested when I go through because I won't go through the x-ray machine.
Well, we all do that, I think. Or at least you don't generally opt out, do you, Mark?
I generally do not, because I figure they're going to do whatever they want to do anyway, so I'm just going to go through their process.
I'd rather have the pat down than go through an x-ray or whatever the hell that thing is, the microwave transmitter,
millimeter wave, yeah.
I don't know what that thing does. The only time I've only ever been through that one time in the last however long they've had it, however many years, and the only time I did that was I was held at, I remember what it was. I was with Renee. We were coming back from the Anarchapulco, one of the previous ones. Houston. I don't know where it was, but we were coming back from Anarchapulco, and they took us aside for not like a real secondary like you experienced, Mark, where there was a detention, but just we're going to look through your stuff line instead of like the normal line where you just kind of get scanned in or whatever, and then they ask you questions. Here they actually paw through your bag a little bit more detailed, so that's where we were. But we were there long enough to where we had only had a very short connecting flight time, and so in that one particular case, because we had no time to get to the flight, I decided to not opt out on that one. But every other time, I've always opted out.
I forgive you.
Yeah, thank you.
I forgive you, my son.
Yeah. So here's some more advice from the American Bar Association as far as what do you need to know when you're at these international returning into the United States Border Patrol checkpoints as somebody who is a purported U.S. citizen. Because, again, if you're not from the United States, if you don't do what they say, they're probably just not going to even let you in.
Right.
So you've got more abilities to stand up for yourself as a U.S. person or whatever.
Right. Basically, you've got to lick the boot if you're going through and you're not a U.S. citizen. And that's how it is for me when I'm going through the rest of their stuff.
Yep.
But I had to go through Customs and Border Patrol in Belgium, in Lisbon, Brussels.
You mean those countries' version of them, or the U.S.?
Right. Okay. Not the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, but their version of whatever that is. And, pardon me, I don't speak those languages. But I had to go through in Brussels, in Lisbon, in Ghana, in other places that I'm not allowed to mention contractually. And what I'll say is though Ghana sucked, it sucked because I didn't have $50 in my pocket. If they just want, it's just a shakedown operation there. Be advised, ladies and gentlemen, have cash.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a good idea to travel with a whole bunch of cash, so I didn't.
Yeah.
But I regretted
Having
that.
some would have been better than a whole bunch.
I had, I brought a few $100s, and I should have brought 1,000, maybe 1,500. Would have been better for my purposes. Anyway, but in Europe, it was. I mean, even though United States citizens are not allowed to travel to Europe right now, they let me in both times with nothing to say. Well, I guess they did say something in Brussels. They said, we're not supposed to let you in, but if you go directly to the hotel and go to sleep, it'll be fine. That way I'm not sleeping in an airport, and they knew that I would have to sleep in the airport otherwise. But I couldn't have gone anywhere anyway. The whole city was locked down.
So they didn't make you quarantine when you went over there?
I mean, I essentially did quarantine. There was
nothing to do.
Yeah, there was no health club even in the. I mean, I couldn't even go to the gym
hotel?
in the hotel. It was shut down because of COVID.
So they had a gym, just locked it down.
Right.
Wow.
So I.
But they care about us. They care about us, but they're shutting down gyms and grocery stores. And
the best meal of the whole trip was in this hotel room, mind you. It was delicious, and a bottle of wine. So whatever, it wasn't so bad. I just went.
But you couldn't even go to the hotel restaurant. You had to get room service.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Wow. So they say, be wary of implicit consent. Again, this is the American Bar Association.
Yes.
If the border agent is vague about whether he or she is asking or ordering you to unlock your device, provide a password, or furnish social media identifiers, politely establish whether it is a request or a command. If the former, meaning if it's a request, you have the ability to courteously but firmly withhold your consent. If the latter, if it is a command that you provide these passwords and such, inform the agent that you are complying under protest and that you do not consent. This is even more effective if you have someone with you who can be a witness. If you fail to protest, then in the event you subsequently seek to mount a legal challenge to the search, the government may claim that you consented. Under no circumstances.
And this is when they say to courteously, this is the opportunity, because we all are playing this game when we're dealing with law enforcement, no matter how you're dealing with them. It's like how much do I have to put up with, and how nice do I have to be? Right? I want to get on with my day, and this guy wants to waste my time. So what I think the best thing to say in a circumstance like this, having just gone through it, might have been to, politely look at the guy, the officer in this circumstance, and say, look, I understand you've got to do what you've got to do. Mm-hmm. I want you to understand that I'm a patriot, and I take the Bill of Rights very seriously. And I'm trying to protect your freedom, the freedom of your family, and all of your fellow American citizens when I say I don't consent to any sort of search. And I want you to understand that's a baseline. You do what you have to do in order to get me out of here, but I don't consent to anything extra. Mm-hmm. If you're asking yourself, I wonder if I can do this that isn't something that you're mandated, allowed to do, then I don't consent to it, officer. Are we clear? Now let's go on. Thanks. And that's polite. Mm-hmm. It says
but
to
firm.
him, it says to him, I love him as an American, which is something that clearly a guy with a flag on his freaking arm cares about, right? I love his family, and that he is working for a tyrannical organization that drops $1 million bombs on $10 tents, and he's acting like I'm the criminal.
They say here, do not succumb to the blandishments of techies or others who recommend concealing data on your devices with hidden volume features or other techniques designed to vary the data that will appear depending on the password that's used. Border agents may characterize this as making a false or fraudulent statement to them or obstructing their investigations or the proper administration of their duties, either of which is a serious federal criminal offense. So now that's an interesting one because it does get a little more technical. There are, for instance, there's a program online. It used to be called TrueCrypt. Then the TrueCrypt guys got compromised somehow, and they released a really suspicious statement that made it obvious that they'd been compromised by the government in some way, and
Canary.
Canary, and they shut down, and then the code for TrueCrypt got rolled into a program called VeraCrypt.
Yeah, VeraCrypt.
So that's the sort of the subsequent one that has come out. And anyway, these things allow you to create hidden volumes, which means that you have. If they find this encrypted file or this encrypted hard drive, and they say put in put in your password, well, you would have two passwords. One gets into the sort of outer volume, the one that is full of the fake puppy photos or whatever that you were talking about, Mark.
Right.
And then the hidden volume is the one that they don't necessarily know exists. It's encrypted within this encrypted file, and the only way you get access to it is by putting a special password. So it's the same password prompt, but you can put in two passwords. You put in the password for the Border Patrol, and then they can see what they see. Or you put in the real password that gets you into all of your files. It's an interesting, it's an interesting setup. It's also interesting that they're recommending against that here. But again, that would require, for them to say that you were obstructing their investigation would require them to have the knowledge that such a hidden volume existed, and that might be difficult for them to ascertain.
That would be very difficult to ascertain.
Yeah. Unless you told them, in which case then.
Right, and this is...
Don't tell these people anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where they get the information.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where they get the information.
It's from you.
Most people incriminate themselves.
That's right.
The vast majority of times, in the vast majority of cases, people just told them. They snitched on themselves. And this is why you have to, I'm sorry. I know you want to talk nice to the nice police officer. I get it. I want to talk nice to them too. But they decided long ago that they wanted to array themselves against your civil rights. And so what you have to do in that circumstance is you have to be as terse as possible, as succinct as possible. Say as few words to them as possible. Be polite, smile, and get out of there.
Finally, they say here, if any of your devices is seized, you are entitled to a property receipt. You do want to have evidence that they took it, so you get that. And then finally, they say also that if you do provide passwords or identifiers, you certainly can change them after the fact. Right? You don't want to leave them with that password, but also you have the ability to negotiate. You can say, I'm not going to give you the password, but I am willing to enter it for you, meaning that you knew this was going to happen, but you don't want them to have what your password is. And they'll probably let you do that because they do want to get into your device.
Oh, yes, they do.
So you don't have to give it to them per se. More coming up here. Hour 2 or 3 is next. It's Free Talk Live.
Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have two cats, Dixie and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cats to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life. You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Stamps.com brings the post office and UPS shipping right to your computer. Go to Stamps.com to start a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale with promo code FOX. That's Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the page and type in FOX.
One hurdle cleared. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. A key FDA panel has approved the Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19.
This advisory panel met for about 9 hours. They were incredibly thorough. They voted 17 yays, 4 noes, and 1 abstention to move this on to the full FDA career employees. But during this debate, they talked about potential side effects from a mild fever that lasted for about a day. Also, the debate over the age. Some of these COVID vaccines talk about nobody 18 and younger, but this specific vaccine, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, deals with 16 and 17-year-olds. That was an issue, too. If the full FDA career employees approve this, we could see vaccines going out in just a few hours or days.
Fox's David Spunt. This coming as the U.S. hits a record for the daily number of deaths from the virus at 3,124. More than 160,000 people are hospitalized. The Premier of Ontario, Canada, says vaccinations there will begin in Toronto and Ottawa next Tuesday. The Pfizer vaccine was approved by Canadian regulators yesterday. Virginia is tightening its COVID restrictions.
If you're indoors and you're around other people, you need to wear a mask. If you're outdoors and you can't stay 6 feet apart, you need to wear a mask.
Governor Ralph Northam, who is a doctor by training, he has also put a midnight curfew in place. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf has put a pause on school sports and other school activities and has ordered gyms, casinos, and theaters to close, and indoor dining at restaurants is banned. World carbon emissions are down 7% this year, the biggest drop ever. The Global Carbon Project, made up of an international group of scientists who track emissions, say the drop is mainly because people are staying home and traveling less by car and plane. They say emissions will likely go back up after the pandemic ends. Ground transportation makes up about a fifth of emissions of carbon dioxide. America is listening to Fox News. The military taking action against...
Don't let the smart speaker be the only smart one in the room. Instead of binging on mindless entertainment or letting the news get your blood pressure up, feed your brain at CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream has been called the Netflix for documentaries, with on-demand access to thousands of documentaries, award-winning exclusives, and original programs for just $20 a year. You can get smarter entertainment at CuriosityStream.com. Watch anywhere on any device and cancel anytime. Whether it's Roman armor or convective cooking, they go deep on all subjects with nonfiction shows like Amazing Dino World, Pompeii Disaster Street, and The History of Home with Nick Offerman. And with CuriosityStream, you're in good company. It was launched by Discovery Channel creator John Hendricks and has over 13 million subscribers worldwide. Join them right now, and for a limited time, get 25% off when you sign up at CuriosityStream.com/Fox. CuriosityStream.com/Fox for 25% off. CuriosityStream.com/Fox.
A terror group in Africa while also beefing up its presence in the Middle East.
The U.S. military launched 2 drone strikes Thursday against al-Qaeda explosives experts in Somalia, days after announcing all U.S. troops would be leaving the war-torn country. It's not clear how many Shabaab fighters were killed. Late last week, President Trump ordered all 700 U.S. troops out of the country. At the same time, al-Qaeda-backed fighters were killed in Somalia. 2 U.S. B-52 bombers flew non-stop to the Middle East from Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, the second deterrence mission against Iran in recent weeks. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there's a strong possibility Britain and the EU would not reach a trade deal as Brexit talks continue, but he said he would do.
An unpopular police officer thinks about committing a racially motivated offense for a little support. A middle-aged man is having the best snacks of his life, and a housefly drops everything to go stand on a watermelon slice. This is the Onion Week in Review. Noting the youth center's ping pong table and array of DVDs and Blu-rays, local youth minister Mark Kindler told reporters this week that his church's new rec room has everything a teen could want. The youth pastor revealed that the basement facility's many teen-friendly amenities include a new Wii U console, an iPod dock for the teens to play any music they like, and some comfortable recliners for those who just want to relax or do their homework after school.
We've really gone out of our way to give the rec room a laid-back atmosphere. It's stocked with snacks, but sometimes at the end of the week, we'll spring for some pizza. Honestly, I wish I had a place like this when I was their age.
In other news, increased violence leads the State Department to issue an advisory for Americans traveling to 1861, and an elderly lobbyist is always droning on about how little legislation used to cost in his day.
This is the Onion News Network.
Captain Actual America is overweight and hopelessly in debt, and the Richie Rich comic strip introduces a new, even gayer character. As if you needed another reason to remain in your isolated and socially degenerative cocoon, this is the Onion Week in Review, Comics Edition. Sources confirmed Tuesday that the Comic Book and Sci-Fi Expo Comic-Con was once again marred by BullyCon, an increasingly popular event held in the same convention space. Now in its 5th year, BullyCon reportedly drew more than 125,000 tormentors from across the nation, all of whom were bent on beating up and torturing those attending the many comic book, television, and movie panels at Comic-Con.
When this got started, it was just a couple of friends who wanted to beat the shit out of some Joss Whedon fans, but now there are thousands of us, ruining Walking Dead panels, taunting Harry Potter nerds, and really making some video gamers' lives completely miserable. I don't necessarily need to travel to San Diego to slap a copy of Spider-Man out of some pussy's hands, but something really special about coming together with people who dig the same sort of cruelty you do.
Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You can take control of the airwaves here. Bring up whatever is on your mind. Our number is 855-450-FREE. Coming up, Rush Limbaugh is promoting secession. Maybe it's actually time for this thing to go mainstream. We can talk about that, but first we're going to get into a little bit of COVID-related news. Andy, you wanted to cover tonight, by the way, Ian, Andy, and Mark in the studio, you had wanted to cover your thoughts and what's going on with the vaccine, specifically the Pfizer one. Now, there's like dozens of these things being developed, right? Not like nation or worldwide. There's a ton of companies that are working on this stuff. But in the U.S., I've heard the most about Moderna and Pfizer.
Yep, those are the two right now that are being put up for emergency use authorization. And I believe on the way here, I saw something from Twitter saying that the Pfizer vaccine has received emergency use authorization for
from
use
the FDA
in the U.S.
Okay.
Yep. So FDA has approved this. And in the vaccine trials, Pfizer's own data from FDA.gov, 19 reports, or on page 19 of this report, killed 2 participants along with 8 having severe adverse reactions and withdrawing from the trial. 4 people who supposedly took the placebo vaccine also died.
How the hell does that happen?
Right, did they just get sugar water and it killed them?
No.
Or did it just died?
There's actually some research and some reports coming out that the actual placebo is some other vaccine completely.
So what's the source on this?
This is FDA.gov. 6 people died. So 2 people died from the actual vaccine and 4 people from the placebo. Plus another 4 or 5 people have gotten Bell's palsy. So they're literally one side of their
frozen face.
Frozen face, yeah. So these are the kinds of things that are happening just in the trial already.
Now, does it also say how many trial participants there were?
Yeah, it's about 30. So FDA and Pfizer's own data looks like 37,000. So about 38,000 have gotten it.
Okay.
So
how many was that dead? So
6.
2 from the alleged vaccine, and then
apparently
4
the placebo is twice as deadly.
Yeah,
it's the vaccine.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
So I mean, these are the kinds of things. It's a completely experimental, extremely rushed technology. They've never used it on humans before, so it's a new messenger mRNA vaccine.
What does that mean?
It's just basically, I mean, I'm definitely not a doctor, but from what I've heard, the messenger RNA will go in and it'll attach to DNA in your body.
And supposedly make changes, right?
Yeah, a lot of doctors are actually saying that this could change your DNA forever. So that's...
Oh, what's the big deal?
Yeah,
you don't want to get sick from getting this thing that you might survive with a 99.96% chance of survival.
Hold on. The thing that you have to be tested for by what is widely considered to be a faulty test.
Completely meaningless.
To find out whether you've got it or not. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't even know if you've got this thing.
Yeah, that's how dangerous and deadly it is.
And
you don't even know that you had it, and you can pass it to somebody else, and they don't even know they have
because the supermajority of people don't show any symptoms.
What a crazy, scary virus. Oh, my God. You don't even know you had it. You need a test to tell you had it.
And then take a vaccine that might kill you.
And really important, my doctor wouldn't give me the test because he says the test is too inaccurate.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to charge you for this. What are you talking about? But you've got to take the PCR test in order to get on an airplane. But what Elon Musk came down with COVID, took 4 tests in a single day.
2 and 2, yeah.
And
or did he?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, because 2 of the tests said he didn't have COVID.
No, he took 4 tests in
and
a
2
single
said
day.
he did have it, and 2 said he didn't.
Right, but so that says he took it.
That doesn't mean he
whatever.
came down with it.
Okay, I don't know whether he came down with it or not. What I'm saying is he took 2 tests.
Right, 4 tests.
4 tests, and 2 were positive, 2 were negative.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to believe.
Yeah.
Am I just
Well, I'll tell you this.
Am I just supposed to believe whatever Dr. Fauci says? Because there's all kinds of doctors saying all kinds of different things.
Right. My doctor says that this is all BS.
Yeah, and even Dr. Fauci says that asymptomatic carriers have never been the cause of an outbreak ever. In all of history of all airborne viruses,
Really?
They've always been spread by symptomatic people. That's from his own mouth.
Oh, did you hear that Fauci is going to be staying on board with the government?
Yeah, he instantly accepted the position from Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So this is like going on 40 plus years. This guy has been the head of NIH. I mean, in HHS, whatever it is. But he's literally, that's what you call deep state.
It just goes to
Permanent
show
state.
that, it doesn't matter if you change out the president. The bureaucrats, for the most part, stay the same, one administration to the next. If people think there's going to be some sort of big difference between these two, I mean, yeah, you'll notice some changes, but overall, these bureaucrats are still going to be the same ones telling you how to run your life.
Yeah, and they can change their minds, too. Remember, Fauci told you not to wear a mask.
That's right.
So it gets even better
before he told you to wear a mask.
Yeah, yeah. He
And
said,
then goggles.
He said it might stop a droplet or two, but it won't provide the perfect protection that you think that it does. And then he said Americans should not be walking around in masks. That was in April.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden here we are in November or December, and it's totally la la land out there. It's bizarro world.
It's so weird.
If you want to breathe oxygen and have the right to breathe like we were created to do, to breathe oxygen.
You're a second-class person
You
now.
are literally a bad person.
Yep.
You are shameful.
I was shamed yesterday for the very first time. Not shamed for the very first time. Confronted for the very first time. It was the second time I was shamed by somebody in the last year, basically, that this has been going on. And I told you guys the story off the air, but since I brought it up, so I was at the UPS shipping center here in Keene trying to track a package, and I walked in. It was like right at the end of the night. They're about to close within the last 10 minutes. So I walk in. I'm the last customer of the night. And there's one guy before me who's wrapping up with the clerk. He's an older guy, probably late 60s, early 70s, and he's got a mask on. The clerk, of course, has a mask on as well. Although I've been in there when a clerk didn't have a mask on, but in this case he did. And so older guy wraps up whatever it was that he was doing, and I made a point of staying far away because I know how these people are, man. They are
Give them their room.
Super freaky or whatever. I don't want to give them any reason to freak out. So I'm over on the other side of what is a relatively small room, but I'm more than 6 feet away from this guy. Okay, and so I wait until he starts walking out, and then I move up towards the counter to do my business with UPS, and I notice the dude stops at the door. And is turned and you can feel someone looking at you, right?
He's feeling brave. He feels like
I feel
he has
it every
to
time I go
defend.
shopping.
Yeah.
There's just eyes peering into you, just burning a hole in the back of your head. Like,
and there's
put a mask
no
on.
doubt. Yeah.
Put a mask on.
There's no doubt. He's looking me up and down, and he's thinking about what he's going to say. And so he finally says, and I'm paraphrasing, right? Because I didn't record video of this because I'm in a business, and I just want to get my things done. And I don't feel right generally pulling out a camera inside somebody's business unless I've got permission. So it really has to be a pretty crazy thing that's happening to make me want to do that. So anyway, he says, you really ought to get a mask. And I say, I'm exempt, because I am.
But you've got a doctor's note, and I saw it.
I do
now.
actually have a doctor's note, but
It's
I don't
laminated.
need to have a doctor's note in order to be
You don't
exempt.
need to have anything.
I only got that because I want to take it to the bank and see what they do. That's honestly what I want. The one place that has refused my medical exemption. But anyway, so I said I'm exempt, and he says what or something to that effect. And as though he didn't hear me, or maybe he was surprised by what I said.
COVID got in your ears, mister?
So I said back to him, I said, now I turned and I looked him and I said, I'm exempt. And then he actually tries to get into why. He actually asked me something to the effect of, well, what's your reason for that?
None of your effing business.
And I said, basically said that to him. I said to him, why don't you mind your own business? I didn't want to use a profanity with him. I said, why don't you mind your own business? And then he goes, well, it is my business because it's for my protection. And I said, "Get lost." And I turned around and just, walked up. And at that moment, the UPS guy was like, "All right, guys," he's trying to like break it up before things.
Yep.
Not that I'm going to fight the guy or anything like that. I mean, I don't want to touch him. I don't want to be anywhere near this guy. Just leave me alone. Go away. Get out of my face. And it's none of your business. So anyway, as I'm walking up to the UPS guy and the dude's walking out the door at that point, the UPS guy goes, "Yeah, I agree with you."
Nice.
Now, maybe he would have said that to anybody, but
Sure.
Yeah.
regardless, it was...
I don't know what he was agreeing with exactly.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic, just real quick, I want to read something from the New England Journal of Medicine.
Hold that.
Yeah,
We're going to
I
get to it here.
will.
More about the Pfizer results, where apparently more people died from the actual
They're
placebo
dying
effect.
from this. They're dying from this vaccine in the vaccine trial. Do not get this thing. I'm not a doctor. I don't give medical advice, but please.
Scary stuff. There's more on the way here. Your calls, your thoughts are welcome. This is Free Talk Live. 855-450 free.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. DIVI project.org. Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Bain Books at bainbooks.com.
Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com, where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. All put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's FFF at FFF.org.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything that you want. According to the headlines over just the last few hours, the FDA has, as you mentioned, Andy, approved the Pfizer COVID vaccine for so-called emergency use. And this is what we've been discussing here, the clinical trials that they've been engaging in with this, where people, of course, have died. Surprisingly, 4 people supposedly died from taking the placebo version of this, which really makes you wonder about the placebo effect. And I think we actually talked about this earlier this week, the idea that the placebo effect is normally talked about as this effect that can have positive effects, meaning that if you take a drug and you believe, or you take what is purported to be a drug, but it's actually a sugar pill, but it's supposed to fix the problem that you have, voila, your problem is solved because mind over matter, and you've manifested the solution, and placebo effect's an amazing thing. But could the placebo effect have the opposite effect, meaning that if you take what you consider to be a vaccine and you're afraid of what could happen, that you know you can get sick from or die from a vaccine, that you believe that you could, if you believe enough that you could become ill from the vaccine, that you actually die from the placebo effect?
Yeah, I don't think in this case it's that, because there has been researchers and doctors that are saying the placebo in this actual study, this vaccine trial, is not, it's another vaccine. It's literally
really?
Yeah. I don't have anything directly in front of me, but I've seen doctors and researchers talking about this, that the actual placebo, quote-unquote placebo in this trial is not even a total natural placebo like we would think, like a sugar pill or saline or something.
Now, I'd be interested to see if that's true, because that sounds like speculation.
Don't quote me on this, but I've seen it from several sources. I just don't have it right in front of me.
And another thing is that, we don't know how big this study is, but
he said like 37,000, I think.
That's a big study. 4 people died.
6 total.
6 total, right? 6 people died. 2
so far.
2 with the vaccine, 4 with the placebo. But if you have 37,000 people, some people
somebody's
are going to die.
True. That's true.
So, I don't know
Over what period
anything.
of time was this, too? I mean, was it a relatively short window of time?
All excellent questions.
But would they have died had they not taken a vaccine?
We don't know, because
you don't get
that's
to compare.
not how science works.
Yeah.
So, all you can infer from that is this person was healthy, because people that go into vaccine trials are healthy.
But they're supposed to be, right?
They're supposed to be healthy. That's how you get in the trial. And then if they're healthy going in and get a vaccine and then just all of a sudden die, I think we can, with good reason, suspect that it may have had something to do with the vaccine.
I think that there's no way that people wouldn't suspect that. So, we have to be prepared for that.
It is 2020.
So there was, just as an aside here, Fox News interviewed a nurse who participated in the trial of the Pfizer vaccine. Kristen Choi told Fox host Bill Hemmer that she said, remember, these are 2 shot. There's a double shot thing. So you're supposed to get 1 shot, and then I think it's like a month later, get the other one. She says, after the first shot, it felt just like a normal injection, a flu shot or something else. I was a bit sore, but not too much more than that. The second shot was different, she continued. When I got home after the study, a few hours later, I started to develop chills, headaches, and fatigue. I kind of started feeling worse and worse throughout the night and woke up with a fever in the middle of the night. That kind of escalated until the morning, when I woke up with a very high fever of 104.9 degrees.
Oh, my God.
Don't you die at like 105, basically, or close to that?
Yeah, this lady's may have had brain damage from this.
She says, at that point, I took some Tylenol, drank some water, and fortunately it started to come down from there, and the side effects were mostly gone by the end of that first day. She then further claims that this was actually, she says, the signs of a vaccine reaction are very similar to COVID-19, she said.
Right. Well, that's what they say about, right? You can't catch the flu from the flu vaccine. However, the symptoms of a reaction to a flu vaccine is flu-like symptoms. So
what's the difference then?
Well, one's not an influenza virus.
Yeah, but if you're up puking, then what do you care?
Right. This is my statement when I was a firefighter for some time and still trying to get to be a firefighter again, move towns and that sort of thing. They wanted me to take the flu vaccine. I'm like, look, I've taken the flu vaccine. I get sick from the flu vaccine.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't know if it's from the flu vaccine. I do.
I've done it more than once.
It happens every year.
But you don't want to get the flu. And I'm like, look, if the flu vaccine is usually come up with it about 18 months before the flu season. So they don't even know what the flu is going to look like.
Shot in the dark.
It's a shot in the dark. And then sometimes they hit, but most often they miss as far as the flu vaccine goes. So there's a small chance that I will avoid the flu by taking the vaccine. There's a large chance that I will be ill with flu-like symptoms from taking the vaccine. So no thanks.
Yep.
Let's also keep in mind here, too, that since 1986, the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act has protected all vaccine manufacturers from liability.
People think that's new. That's not new.
No, it's not new, but they've also doubled down introducing new bills that cover these manufacturers specifically for COVID-19 vaccines.
Yep.
So all the manufacturers, all the big insurance companies, all the big distributors like CVS and Walgreens and Rite Aid and all these people
exempt.
Completely exempt and immune from all liability from any harm or injury caused. So these 6 people that we're seeing that have died as a result of the vaccine trial have zero recourse. The only chance they have is to go through a secret vaccine court that we have here in the U.S. They probably have something similar in other countries because the UK also has this blanket immunity for these same manufacturers. You cannot disregard this. This is a big deal. They have zero liability for any harm.
If that's not a red flag, I don't know.
I don't know what is. I can't, I can leave.
Trust us.
These are convicted felons, by the way. Every single pharmaceutical company, every single vaccine manufacturer, they're all convicted felons.
When you say that, what do you mean by that?
The entities.
The entities themselves have all paid out billions or millions in criminal and civil penalties. That's
really
convicted in court.
It's an accurate statement.
Because normally a felony, somebody goes to jail, but not in the case of a corporation.
Well, how do you put a corporation in jail?
Right.
That's the only time they're not a person, right?
Right. I can't remember the. I can't remember the different companies that have faced it, but state after state after state has filed suit and beaten drug companies for mostly oxycodone stuff.
They can be
recently,
sued for pharmaceuticals, not for vaccines.
Right. So vaccines they're exempt for, but pharmaceuticals they're not. And look, I get why they would exempt pharmaceutical companies when it comes to vaccines. They want to get this vaccine rolled out as quickly as possible, and taking away liability is a way to do that. However, this is important, ladies and gentlemen. People who don't have responsibility in a situation tend to not act responsibly.
That's right.
Great point.
So, there you go. And how am I going to handle this vaccine situation? Because I have to, in all likelihood, have to take this vaccine if I want to continue my goal of creating more freedom in this world. And how am I going to handle it? Well, I'm going to wait until other people take it. I'm going to avoid it for as long as I can and see how long. Let's see how our healthcare professionals on the front line of the COVID thing handle this vaccine.
A lot of them are pushing back too, saying they're not even going to get it.
Yeah, sure, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Toll-free number tonight.
Let's hope.
855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. The nurse in this particular case said she thinks that she was glad she participated, and she would do it again if she had the opportunity.
See, they've all drinking.
It's been a couple days. What has it been? A couple days since
More
he
coming
took
up.
this thing.
Free Talk Live.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by T.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
Every year, over 1 million fires burn in America. Fortunately, firefighters are on the job, saving life and property, and you can be a part of it. 7 out of 10 firefighters and emergency responders are volunteers. There's no typical firefighter. Anyone can volunteer to serve their community. Volunteering as a first responder is really about having the heart and drive to make a difference where it's needed most. Your community needs you. Are you ready to answer the call? Learn more and find local volunteer opportunities at makemeafirefighter.org.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at lrn.fm.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want. We're talking about the vaccine, or one of them, the Pfizer vaccine specifically approved now according to the FDA, and you're going to start to see them rolling this out to whatever poor victims they're going to be able to apply with this under whatever circumstances. Some states, like New York, are considering making it mandatory. I did see on, I think it was just like an unscientific web poll. I was on a radio station website today, and I saw one of those questions on their site that said, are you going to take the vaccine? And it was about, I think, 25% saying they would refuse. So, again, unscientific web poll, New Yorkers. So your results are going to vary in other areas. But it does suggest that there is at least a significant portion of the population that is going to refuse this. And I'm glad to see that being the case. Now, they're going to try to incentivize this, but many places are probably not going to make it mandatory, but they'll start to say things like, oh, well, if you want to take an airline flight, or if you want to get a job, or if you want to have your kids go to school, because they've already been doing this to students in government schools, mind you. Right. For a long time, they've been telling the government schools have been telling parents, you have to get Johnny vaccinated in order to send him here, or else you just can't send him there, which shouldn't be sending your kids to government school in the first place, but that does persuade a lot of people to get it.
Yeah, I feel a little differently. So you say you're happy that some people are going to opt out.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You do like it when people stand up.
Non-cooperation is the only way that you can actually achieve significant freedom is if you don't do what you're told.
I, however, want to cooperate with the things that make sense and not cooperate with the things that don't. So, for instance, I wear a seatbelt, and if I were to ride a motorcycle, which I will in all likelihood not because I find them to be dangerous vehicles, I would wear a helmet. And those laws, the fact that those are laws in many states are meaningless in my life because I'm willing to follow them. However, in this circumstance, what I say is that if you toe the government line and you believe everything these people tell you over and over again, in the face of the facts, in the face of the science.
Well, you deserve what you get.
You deserve what you get, right? And I want people to get what they deserve because the universe comes to better stasis when people get what they deserve.
Sure.
When we're wiping out the gene pool of the people that are, lockstep authoritarian believing Nimrods, well, that's good. So,
I'm not saying that people, who don't. Like, if you want to get a vaccine, then shoot yourself up with whatever the hell you want to. I'm not telling you not to get it. I'm saying I appreciate the people who aren't. I appreciate the people because those people are, whether I agree with them on other issues, at least on this issue, they're my people. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
I'm willing to work with people who I don't agree with. If we are in agreement on one issue, I'll work with you on that one issue. I don't care what you think about, socialism or fascism or whatever on the others. If you're going to refuse the mask, if you're going to refuse the vaccine, I'm on your side on that one. And I'm going to say thank you to the people who are refusing this stuff. Because if 99% of the people go along with it, then, that's not a world I want to live in.
If I felt like the vaccine was effective, then I would probably take it. But I tend not to believe that it will be. That's the question, right? So you're talking about where has the first...
Your immune system is effective against this.
99.98%.
Right.
Right.
This lady got 105.
Rate. Yep.
This nurse in California, had a fever of 104.9 degrees after dose number 2 of this Pfizer vaccine in the test, and she's singing its praises. Lady, you probably wouldn't have had a fever at all if you contracted COVID. You're a young woman.
Right.
Propaganda, but then again, I can see normal people saying this because they do every day.
Well, plus she's also a nurse, so she's incentivized.
Almost every nurse that I know personally hawks vaccines.
Yeah,
that's all they've ever been taught. Even if you ask a nurse, they actually will tell you that they've only gotten like a half a day's worth of study in their nursing program on vaccines.
Sure.
A half a day's worth in all the years.
And it was just straight propaganda, too.
And
right?
all they're taught is that they need to trust the CDC and that here's the vaccine schedule and get in line. If you want to work in allopathic medicine and you want to work for a big hospital that's funded by Bill Gates and the government or whatever.
You can't break from the
You can't break from the vaccine schedule. I had a friend who's a mother who went and got her son a Gardasil shot after I've warned her about the dangers of vaccines and how there's...
What is Gardasil? What is it?
It's HPV vaccine.
That's right. Okay.
For young boys, they're giving it to them. They're...
Right. The HPV is not shown to do anything to young men.
Yeah.
Wow.
It could give you, if you're a woman, it could give you
cervical cancer or whatever it is.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But, basically, if you've been sexually active with 3 people in your life...
Yeah.
You've got human papillomavirus.
No kidding.
It's that likely to be spread, but it doesn't generally
kill you?
It doesn't generally do anything to anyone.
So why are people freaking out about it?
Because a few people it does do some bad things to.
Big pharma.
And it does it to women. And remember, they're a subjected minority.
So she's telling me about giving her son the shot, and then she's telling me how the nurse, who is a good friend of mine, I actually went to high school with this girl. She's married to one of my brother's best friends. Is telling me, my friend, the mother, saying she's trying to pressure me to get the flu vaccine, and I'm telling her no, my kids aren't getting the flu vaccine, and she's like angrily pressing her in the doctor's office. Like, what are you doing? You have to get.
Don't you care about your children's health?
Exactly. That's the kind of mentality we're dealing with here with these.
It's like they put the name flu vaccine on it. So that's all you're supposed to. That's the only level of thinking you're supposed to do.
Line up. Get it.
And I mean, like I can tell these people about my experience. I can tell them about my research into the subject.
Dismissed.
I know it sounds like
you're just
when some
anti-vaxxer.
You're not a doctor.
Crazy.
Right.
You're a lunatic.
I'm not even an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
Like I'll use vaccines if I consider them to be a good choice. I just got a vaccine in the last 3 weeks.
Really? For what?
Yellow fever. I had to get it.
You
in
had
order,
to, huh?
I had to get it in order to travel. But I mean, I wasn't.
I'm surprised you could even get it. I mean, getting appointments for things, medical procedures. And whatever.
most of the locations.
So they
are
won't
shut
let
down
you
this-
travel without it to certain
not
places.
International,
to certain places. You must have it. It's part of the.
That's
I mean,
when I
they
don't
they
travel.
literally pulled the thing out and looked at it and said, "Okay, yellow fever vaccine. Slide it back in." So in order to get your shots to travel, that's one of the things that you have to get.
Now that's not every country.
No.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But they did have yellow fever in Florida. There was an epidemic back in the 1908 or something, and killed a bunch of people.
Just wanted to read quickly about Pfizer real quick. September 2nd, 2009, the U.S. Justice Department announced it had reached the largest healthcare fraud settlement in history after Pfizer agreed to pay, wait for it, $2.3 billion with a B for the illegal marketing of its products. You have false claims in Massachusetts, $102 million fine.
Illegal marketing, that's like where they go to the doctors and buy them a bunch of stuff, right? And they like send pretty pharmaceutical reps to like butter these guys up in ways that are sort of
or just
not
lie
really-
about the medication. Outright lie,
But the idea
I
is
think in this circumstance, what it
$2.3 billion
was the claim that oxycodone was not addictive.
Is that what this was about?
That was Purdue Pharma, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is Pfizer he's referring to.
Pfizer. I just wanted to bring up Pfizer because they're the ones with the vaccine front and center.
They're
here.
all bad news. I mean, a lot of these companies are
all convicted felons, as we said earlier. But I just wanted to, highlight that 2009 $2.3 billion fine paid by Pfizer. Why should we trust them? Why? Give me a good reason why I should trust
I'm not interested.
these companies. Exactly.
Not going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should judge the medicines based on their performance. I like my medicines to have been around for a long time, is basically how I feel about them. It's like, oh, this has been around for a long time.
If you go out and get a vaccine to protect you from a virus that may or may not even exist,
that has
and
a 99.98% survival rate.
You're out of your mind.
And that the most likely circumstance for the vast majority of people on the planet contracting this is not even knowing they have the disease.
That's right, because they're asymptomatic, which is to say that you don't get sick.
Which just means healthy people.
Right.
That's all it means.
And we read on the air
healthy.
here that in Great Britain they studied, and half of the people were immune. They were immune from blood tests that had been taken 3 years prior. They were immune to a disease that we didn't know existed until December 3 years ago.
Our toll-free number, if you want to join us in the remaining moments of Free Talk Live, we got open phones for you at 855-450 free, like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live.
Attention business owners body slammed by overwhelming debt. If your business is in trouble, hassled by creditors, if you're frustrated, finally fed up with big business bailouts while your business has been left for dead, please listen close. There's a brand new fast-track bankruptcy. Some have even called it the biggest small business bailout in American history. Designed for individuals and their businesses. And look, almost no one knows about this yet. My attorney wasn't even aware of it. The truth is, beating the system has never been easy because it's rigged in a sense against the little guy. But here's the jaw-dropping news nobody's talking about. They've literally just changed the system so that you can beat it, but only if you understand how the new game has to be played. Find out if you qualify at pocketsoflight.com. This government-backed small business repair program is still legal, but may not be renewed after the election. Fight back fairly, fight back ethically at pocketsoflight.com.
The stress levels of Americans may be at an all-time high. From education to business to basic needs to politics, the 2020 pandemic-related stressors are pushing many of us to near breaking point. That's why you should consider the stress and pain-relieving products from sunny-bay.com, like our lavender neck wraps and pads infused with premium Washington lavender buds. They relieve tension and relax with a soothing scent of lavender. And lifestyle expert Jennifer Bonner recommends products from Sunny Bay.
Sunny Bay's hands-free neck wrap should be your go-to pain relief solution.
Give gifts to family and friends that relieve stress and pain. Give love and care by giving the best. Give pillows, neck wraps, and body wraps from sunny-bay.com, a Biomed DB design company. Just click sunny-bay.com. That's sunny-bay.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live, dial in toll free. And actually, I just found out that I've been inviting people to call in all night, but unfortunately, I did not have the correct call screening system pulled up.
This is a technical difficulty.
This is a failure.
A faux pas.
This is a failure on my part. So the reason is we actually have our own phone screening system in here, and there was a technical reason on previous days that I had pulled that up. Just forgot to log out of it, and it looks just like the one that we use for the network. So
we were talking about how we could set up overlays on our electronic equipment in order to, dodge government interference.
Yeah.
We had an overlay on our electronic equipment that caused us to
dodged us every single call, which we don't usually get a lot on weeknights anyway. And so the board up did say we're pretty light tonight. We only missed one. So thankfully, Joe is still hanging on in Maryland. He's been there half an hour, so we're going to get you right in here, Joe.
Sorry, Joe.
Joe, you're on the air. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Thanks, man. Nice to know you're there. Go ahead.
Hey, was anybody working on Monday night this week?
Well, if you want to call hosting a radio show work, yes.
Okay. I called in and I joked around about the viruses, about taking the vaccines and stuff. And I explained to everybody about COVID viruses, how they weren't alive and stuff like that. Do you remember that call?
COVID viruses, yeah. So that right, and then we actually looked a little bit further, and so just
viruses generally aren't. It's dubious as to whether or not they are alive at all.
Right,
yeah.
They're not alive. They're inert, and they have to be activated. Okay, so I kind of know what I'm talking about when I talk to you guys about this stuff. Okay, Andy, this is for you. Right. Now, they didn't tell you that if you have allergies and you take these vaccinations, that's a no-no, especially if you have peanut allergies.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't told you about that yet.
Sure. That doesn't surprise me one bit.
That's bad for you. Also, with these vaccinations, there's something inside these vaccinations that interact with you. And with these masks, and they haven't told you about this yet. I got this information also. So when you breathe and you have these little fibers in the mask, it messes up your lungs because of the aluminum that they put in these vaccinations, and it messes up your lungs. So they haven't told you about that yet, Andy.
Sure.
So you are 100% right.
Where do I find out more about this? Aluminum in the vaccine, and I mean, how do you even know what's in it at this point? It just got rolled out.
Well, you got to have the sources that I have, and I'm not going to give you my sources.
All right.
Well, if you don't give your sources, then how is anyone supposed to check the claims?
Yeah,
well, you checked me up the last time, and I was right. And let me just put it to you.
Well, we did a general search for for viruses and whether they are inert or not. But you're making some specific claims now that there's aluminum in the vaccines and that there's they're going to have a reaction to the masks.
Let me put it to you this way. Take your chances, Ed. But
I'm not going to.
Guys, right? Yeah, I'm just trying to help you guys out. And then when
I don't know if you're really helping anything. I mean, you're making some wild claims that may or may not be true, and you're refusing to back them up.
Send us a link. We're not doubting. I'm not doubting you because
I don't know.
Anything's on the table. Yeah.
Maybe it's true, but I can't prove it.
Okay, you can't prove it. But I'm just saying, Andy, when you're talking to your mom, she goes, I don't want you coming over here because, I think you could, give me the COVID virus and some things. Like I'm just saying, some of the things you can say, well, they're not telling you everything about these vaccines.
She won't believe a word he says.
Yeah, I've tried everything.
He's tried.
I appreciate
I know, but Andy, but also you can say, and you know how she could bring up, like in 1917, they had the bird flu and all these people died. But everything's different from the 1917 flu. You could say, Mom, things are cleaner now. We have clean water. We wash our hands all the time. Everything's different from then.
Even the homeless aren't.
That would require her to actually stop and think, though. And,
sure.
And my mom.
I mean, you can point to the homeless populations. They're not coming down with COVID in any significant manner, and they're living in filth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to look at it.
That's because they don't make it to 80.
Joe, thanks for the call tonight.
Thanks, Joe.
I appreciate hearing from you there.
Appreciate you, brother.
Oh, by the way, I did forget to mention Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com, and that is a place where you can go to learn about cryptocurrency. It's a good thing to do right now, especially considering the price of Bitcoin. It's actually down a little bit today. It dropped below $18,000.
May never be there again. You don't know.
And remember, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can always get a fraction. You can also get other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin Cash. And in fact, the website Bitcoin.com will help you understand the basics about this stuff. If you haven't taken the time to learn about Bitcoin yet, go to Bitcoin.com, click on Get Started, and you can watch, 2-3 minute long video. There's more videos, but the first one, you just watch that one. You'll get a great overview of what these things are all about and what some of the real different concepts are that you should get a grasp on. Bitcoin.com can help you with that, and there's a lot of great free content there at Bitcoin.com, including their news website at news.bitcoin.com that will have updated information on a daily basis there. So, there was a time in the past where we talked about Rush Limbaugh listening to Free Talk Live. You remember that, Mark, back in the day when he was... what did he do?
Well, basically, as... the best we can tell, Rush Limbaugh was introduced to Free Talk Live perhaps around the time that we went to our first convention, and I asked him the question, what does the next generation of issues-oriented talk look like? And
this is when he was speaking to Talkers convention. He was there for like 6 minutes. He came in,
he took a question.
He took a couple questions and left.
My question. Yeah. And he said, it's me. Right?
He's like 65
right?
or whatever.
This is a guy who's deaf from his oxycodone addiction. He's, now at this point, he's mortally ill. And I don't certainly want to see anything else. I just thought it was, wow, the signature Rush Limbaugh vanity really is real, because here he was saying that he can't look beyond himself,
right,
to see what issues-oriented talk looks like after him.
Correct.
So, anyway.
But didn't he say something about cow fields?
That's right. He, I think he's quoted here as talking about. No. This was on a show. You're right. These shows, these libertarians broadcasting to cornfields and cow pastures, And at the time, it's not the most inaccurate description of Free Talk Live. Yeah. But I don't know who else he could have possibly been talking about. Right? Like there's one libertarian show out there. And it was, in fact, broadcasting to cornfields and cow pastures. And, to some extent, Free Talk Live still is. I mean, much of our broadcast
How sad
area.
is that one show?
Yeah.
One show.
Yeah. So thanks for the mention, Mr. Limbaugh.
So I bring that up because a lot of talk radio is a bunch of talk show hosts trying to do Me Too on Rush Limbaugh.
Yes.
Basically, pretending to be Rush Limbaugh, doing the same things that Rush Limbaugh does, talking about the same things that Rush Limbaugh talks about. In fact, literally, some of them will listen to Rush Limbaugh and then literally talk about later. So Rush does a noon to, or what is it, 10 to, I don't even know when he does it.
It's
noon to 3. So if, he'll do his early afternoon show, and then other talk show hosts will do their late afternoon drive time show after having listened to Rush. So we don't ever talk about what Rush talks about.
I rarely listen.
I don't listen.
Not that I refuse to listen. If I get in the car between noon and 3, and one of the two radio stations in town, one of which is NPR and the other which would have Rush Limbaugh on it, if it happens to be tuned to where Rush Limbaugh is, I'll listen to that.
I don't care what he's talking about. I don't listen to Rush Limbaugh. I'm not interested. I'm too busy with other things to listen to other shows. But in this case, Rush Limbaugh, the reason we're talking about him is because he is now talking about an issue that has been front and center here on Free Talk Live for many, many years.
It's all right if you use our show for show prep.
Yeah, it's fine.
Mr. Limbaugh.
Thank you.
I mean, I know that the drive-by media uses your show for show prep, but it's pretty obvious.
He's been listening. I'm glad that he's been listening.
Rush is a listener.
And you know what? Maybe he's coming out of his shell a little bit since he's on his deathbed. Basically, sadly, he's got lung cancer. His time's limited.
Yeah.
So maybe
all of our time is limited.
Maybe he's not going to be holding back on his opinions here, because now what he said on his show, this was yesterday on his Rush Limbaugh show. He said, I actually think, he's talking about, can we win the culture? Can we dominate the culture? Referring to his conservative brethren. He says, I actually think, and I've referenced this, I've alluded to this a couple of times because I've seen others allude to this, I actually think that we're trending towards secession. I see more and more people asking, what in the world do we have in common with the people who live in, say, New York? What is there that makes us believe that there's enough of us there to even have a chance at winning New York, especially if you're talking about votes? And then, he goes on to talk a little bit, there cannot be a peaceful coexistence of two completely different theories of life, theories of government, theories of how we manage our affairs. So Rush Limbaugh talking about
deathbed confession. Let's hear him really drop some truth bombs.
I am loving this, and as a result of this, there's a lot of talk about this online right now. The Drudge Report tonight had Rush's picture front and center with a title about secession right there. So maybe it's finally time that we start talking about this issue. We'll see you tomorrow night. freetalklive.com.
Pounds and pounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs. Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have two cats, Dixie and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cats to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life. You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock is next after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Stamps.com brings the post office and UPS shipping right to your computer. Go to Stamps.com to start a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale with promo code FOX. That's Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the page and type in FOX.
One step closer. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
We do have a favorable vote.
The FDA advisory panel approving emergency use authorization for the Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19. The FDA will next vote on it. Once that happens, the vaccine will be distributed to states. The first people to receive it would likely be healthcare workers and the most vulnerable. Widespread immunization for the general public is not expected until the spring. The number of deaths and hospitalizations from COVID-19 in the U.S. hit a new high today as more governors put restrictions back in place.
Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf says the situation is now dire.
I ask all my fellow Pennsylvanians to stand with me, united against COVID.
And that means making more sacrifices. Starting Saturday, indoor gatherings are limited to 10 people, outdoor gatherings to 50.
Indoor dining for this 3-week period will be suspended.
So are indoor operations at movie theaters, casinos, gyms, and many other facilities. Retail businesses remain open, but reduced to 50% occupancy.
By working together to stop the spread over the next 3 weeks, we will be saving lives.
Wolf also encourages residents to stay home as much as possible. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
In Virginia, Governor Ralph Northam has put an overnight curfew in place.
A reminder that you should stay home whenever you can during the rest of the day. But from midnight to 5 a.m., you need to stay home.
He's also put an indoor mask mandate in place and says if you're outside and can't be 6 feet apart, you should also wear one. 5 bicyclists were killed, 3 others hurt in a crash involving a box truck in Nevada. Police say it happened at about 9:40 this morning on Highway 95 south of Boulder City. The cyclists were hit from behind by the truck after it crossed into the bike lane for what police say was an unknown reason. America is listening to Fox News.
Life can be stressful, even under normal circumstances. 2020 has challenged even the most difficult times of life. These days, you need stress relief that goes beyond quick fixes. That's Headspace. Headspace is your daily dose of mindfulness in the form of guided meditations in an easy-to-use app. Headspace is one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research. So, however today's news hits you, Headspace really can help you feel better. Headspace's approach to mindfulness can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost focus, and increase your overall sense of well-being. Backed by 25 published studies on its benefits, Headspace has 600,000 five-star reviews and over 60 million downloads. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/Fox. That's headspace.com/Fox for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. This is the best deal offered right now. Head to headspace.com/Fox today.
Ellen DeGeneres has announced she's tested positive for COVID-19.
The comedian and talk show host tweeting a screenshot of a note which reads, "Fortunately, I'm feeling fine right now. Anyone who has been in close contact with me has been notified, and I am following proper CDC guidelines." DeGeneres goes on to suggest she will be focusing on her recovery over the next few weeks, telling fans, "I'll see you all again after the holidays," adding, "Please stay healthy and safe. Love, Ellen." Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
President Trump has announced Israel and Morocco will normalize relations in what's the latest breakthrough of his administration's press to push Arab-Israeli peace. As part of the deal, the U.S. will recognize Morocco's claim over the dispute.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me
who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Everyone needs to get a justice shed. So you have a place to throw that little juvenile delinquent you caught loitering out on the street corner. This is not rocket science, people. I just call up my neighbors, Frank and Terry. We get out there with baseball bats, fishing nets, and we knock that suspect out. And we toss him in our justice shed. We just start dealing out some shovel beatings. That's democracy, people. That's the biggest benefit of the justice shed, people. You are in charge.
Our justice shed was all filled up, so we created this justice cage.